Can I have your attention, please? I'd like to call the meeting to order. Good evening and welcome to the January 18th, 2007 Lowell Planning Board meeting. All members are in attendance. Next thing on the agenda would be the minutes. Do we have any minutes in our packet tonight, Jim, to review?
No, unfortunately, I'm still getting through them. My apologies.
Okay. Moving along then. Next matter is what's scheduled under public hearing, which is site plan and special permit review, 136 Hilger Street. The Lowell Planning Board will review a revised application by Specialty Home Builders, LLC, for site plan and special permit review for the development of the property located on 136 Hilger Street. The revised proposed includes the construction of 4 residential units. The revised site plan also includes 1 new curb opening, parking for 14 vehicles, site utilities, and landscaping on 11,446 square foot lot. Said revised project is located in a traditional neighborhood multifamily zoning district. This project requires site plan approval under section 11.4 and special permit approval under Article 12 of the Lowell zoning ordinance. Site plan and special permit application will be heard concurrently for this project. As a background matter, this matter was continued from the December 18th meeting. This matter was remanded back to this board after this board voted against the matter. The matter was appealed and went to Superior Court, and Superior Court, the judge there gave us an order, sending it back to this board to approve the special permit and the site plan. At the last meeting, the matter was continued to tonight's meeting for certain requests that board members had in regards to an update on plans. We requested those plans be submitted to us a week in advance. However, we didn't get them until yesterday. And also, I guess we have some new plans that are being submitted tonight, so we didn't get them on a timely notice, which would have been very helpful if we had them so the board would have the chance to review them as we requested a month ago, back in December. At this point in time, I'll turn it over for the applicant, see what they have to say this evening.
We have satisfied all requirements through your request in light of the court's order of August of this year. Would you like me to go specifically through the memo, Mr. Chairman, or how would you like me to proceed?
Sure, I'd appreciate that if you would.
Okay. There, I think it would perhaps, if you want to open your plan. There's an existing conditions plan, including the location of the trees. Specifically, you had asked that we retain the elm tree, which is located at the corner of Bunker Hill Street and Hilder Street. That is shown on the plan. All paved areas, retaining walls, and buildings are shown on the existing conditions plan.
So sheet 1 is the existing conditions?
Correct.
Okay.
The existing condition plan, in my opinion, goes over the details regarding the topography of the site and the abutting properties, in light of the fact that it shows where the existing walls are shown on the plan, and it also shows the difference in the retaining walls on the Bunker Hill side as well as the Hilder side. There have been a number of changes made to the plan from where we originally submitted. The board may remember that after this decision was appealed, the decision of the Planning Board of March 2005, we went back to working with your counsel, Mr. McKenna, as well as the planning board staff in an effort to coordinate a plan that would satisfy the board's requirements. The board rejected our original plan, which we had appealed. The court approved our plan, and we feel as though the plan that we have submitted addressed a number of the issues that were raised by the planning staff as well as the planning board. Some of those issues, and Scott, if you can fill in if I miss anything, is that the unit along Hilder Street was decreased by its original floor plan of 22 by 28 to 20 by 22 by 26. This provided additional room for parking and moving around on the site, and we also decreased the number of parking spaces from 14 spaces to 12 spaces. The reason for that reduction is to provide more room for cars moving in and out of the site.
Also, if you'll look, I don't know if you have the former plan available to look at, but the Bunker Hill building at the, I guess if we assume for a minute that the top of the sheet is north, on the southeast corner of the Bunker Hill building, there was some median on the old plan that further limited the ability of the Hildreth Street cars to back up and exit the property. That median strip has been minimized and reduced, so that gives additional room for backing the cars out of the Hildreth Street units in their parking spaces. The location of the existing tree was transposed from the existing site conditions onto sheet 2 to show that it will remain.
The next item on the memo is from James Erickson, is a detailed landscaping plan for all open areas on the lot, including proposed trees, planting, walkways, fencing, and other pertinent details. Along those lines, we did submit to the planning board some details from a company called Artcrete, which allows the retaining walls to take on an appearance of a brick facade, and along with that, we also submitted some fencing materials that we are willing to use. Once again, for the third time, there was a specific request to keep a large maple tree on the corner of the lot. That is shown as on the plan. That it is our intent to keep that. Along with that submittal is the detailed specifications of the retaining wall, including rehabilitation, replacement of details of the wall. Just for the planning board's knowledge, the wall is a poured concrete wall. It is not a particularly attractive wall in that it is a straight poured concrete wall, but structurally the wall is very sound. This product that is created by Artcrete allows an appearance of a veneer brick-like, and I thought that would be a good complement to this wall. It is something that we are willing to do and will do.
Can I ask you a question on the wall then?
Yep.
Don't mind? So the proposed retaining wall that you're talking about, that is the wall that's going to be facing Hildreth Street, correct?
There is also a wall along Bunker Hill.
Okay.
And actually, I would say that the wall along Bunker Hill is higher than the wall.
But is the wall on Bunker Hill going to remain as it exists today, or is that going to be changed to this Artcrete wall?
No, we are going to change that to
Okay.
the Artcrete wall. This is our, you asked us to create artist renderings.
Yep.
It's not a requirement of your special permit requirements. We did hire an artist to come up with what
Okay.
we believe that look will look like.
I'll just, 'cause I know you have it in the front here, which says, proposed retaining wall, and then on your plan it shows, it had the, then it just says retaining wall on the other side, so it's gonna go all the way around Hill Street, and that new wall will go all the way down Bunker Hill Street, correct then?
Well, if you look on
I'm-
the sheet one,
I'm on sheet 2.
okay, well, on sheet one, you'll see where the existing retaining wall is.
I know where both the walls are, yep,
It goes all the way down on Bunker Hill Street.
right,
The proposed portion is where it's going to curve and connect, because
Okay.
right now there's a curb cut there.
right, I know that, yeah.
So that's
There's a driveway there, yeah.
round in and connected together. And you can see from the artist renderings that it's much lower on the Hillsborough Street side.
Right.
And because of the way that Bunker Hill Street slopes down, the retaining wall is.
There'll be a whole new wall all on Hildreth and all down Bunker then.
No, we're going to use the
We're gonna
existing
use as
wall.
much of the existing wall as possible, but
But we-
it will be connected where it says
So-
proposed,
Okay, so when you get to proposed onto Bunker Hill,
so that it's one continuous piece of wall.
Okay. so getting back to my original question, then, so the new wall, are you gonna put a whole new wall up, or just refinish the wall that's there on Hildreth Street and Bunker Hill Street?
To the extent that there is existing wall,
Mm-hmm.
that wall will be retained and it will be treated in this fashion.
Okay, all right, thank you, go ahead, okay, thank you.
Also on your list are the complete architectural details. They came in two separate sets. There's a set of architectural details for the Hillsborough Street unit and an architectural set for the Bunker Hill units. And of course, we have the artist rendering, which, at least on the Bunker Hill side, is not entirely accurate of what the property will look like. Here, what you would expect to see is the side of the new building. What the artist has done is shown the existing building so that there's some frame of reference between what is there and how it looks and what is going to be there and how it looks in terms of height and size.
So can I ask a question on that, Mr. Chairman?
Sure, go right
So
ahead,
on
Steve.
that artist rendering there, are you saying that the new building will be higher than the existing building? Looks like it is. Do you know by how much?
We should know the answer to that. Our proposed structure is 28 feet from foundation level to top of foundation to top of roof. Kenny Lania had said that the height of the existing is 32. That's a number that I remember. It was an important number for us, but I can't verify that. So based upon what we have, the proposed height of the new building is supposed to be less than the existing, and that's, but I don't have that dimension in my head, the existing height. Do you remember?
On the architectural plans that you submitted, there are heights listed there.
Right, which is 28 feet, but this is our
Actually, it says
proposed.
30,
It says 30, but per
How's it
top
going?
of foundation level, it's
30.5
28.
from the ground, anyway,
Correct.
from the grade. But my question, the artist rendering looks like the new building,
The existing is,
2072. The artist rendering looks like,
the artist rendering, from what I can see there, looks like the new building is taller than the existing building. And
Yes.
You're saying that that's true?
3 feet?
the front building is a foot, a little over a foot, and the back building, I believe, is 2 feet.
Okay.
Higher than the existing?
Yes, that's correct. Way below the 35 feet that's required in your zoning for that area.
Right, that's 35 feet from,
That's
Yeah, so-
35 feet from your, side grade, and if you look at the plans for the architecturals, you'll see that the side of the building height,
hmm,
foundation will be exposed only about a foot
right,
all the way around.
Right, so if it's 30 and a half feet, as it says here on your drawing, from the grade, that means from the street, since according to your plan, the street is about 6 feet lower, then it'll be about 36 and a half feet from the street. Right,
But your guidelines and your rules and regulations are required for street grade.
right, okay.
Excuse me. I'm a little confused on the heights. Could we just go through those one more time? Sorry, I didn't get them. There was a difference between the front building and the back building?
Of course, because when you move the front building is on Hilton Street, it's obviously closer, it's going to move up closer to the street.
Right.
So that building's coming down in height versus what's existing there now. The building in the back that's going to be on the face of Bunker Hill, in relation to the existing building, is actually higher than the existing building.
Okay.
Because the grade's higher back there.
Because of the grading?
Existing building's thick.
Okay. So it's 30 feet 5 inches high, your proposal?
The, two grade, the Humboldt Street building is 30 feet 5 inches.
Okay. And the one in the back?
31, 3.
31, 3.
That's listed on both of your plans as well.
Go ahead, continue, please, thank you.
The height issue was a big issue at trial, and the judge specifically found that the board stated reason that the buildings are much too taller than the single-family residential buildings on a abutting lot is a criteria not found within the city's bylaws. The court finds that the rules that this is an inappropriate reason upon which the denial was based and may therefore be legally untenable ground. The board exceeds its authority if requirements are imposed beyond those established by the rules and regulations. The two-family home currently located at 136 Bunker Street is approximately 2 1/2 stories. Plaintiff's application and site plans indicated that the proposed condominium would measure 3 stories, a limit within the TMF district. She goes on to say, due to the fact that there is no requirement within the bylaws which mandates restricting the height of a proposed building by the relative heights of neighboring buildings that fall within different districts, it was arbitrary for the board to compare the proposed structure to abutting properties with different dimensional requirements. Therefore, by their action, the board arbitrarily imposed subjective requirements beyond those stated within the zoning bylaws and thereby exceeded their authority. The reason why I highlight that is that was a big issue at trial. We are concerned with the board's issues concerning height in redesigning and reworking with the zoning board, your members, George Broakis. Specifically, we did our best to limit the height of the buildings, and I believe that issues with concerning creating the veneer on the wall will help to reduce that tall height look. That's our summary. I believe that we have addressed all the issues of the board. We're more than willing to answer any questions that you may have. It's been a long time for us in this project, and we're hopefully looking forward to getting started.
Thank you. Do you have anybody else with you who wants to speak, or just with the applicant? Anybody else with the applicant?
No.
No, okay, thank you, sir. If you could step back, please, and at this point in time, does anybody else here like to speak in favor of this project? Anybody else in favor of the project? Hearing none, anybody here like to speak in opposition? Just come to the microphone, please, and just give us your name and address for the record, if you would. If you could come to the podium, please, I'd appreciate it, thank you.
Maureen Kelleher, 37 Onsor Street in Lowell. First of all, it's unfortunate that all of this went on and nobody who would be here to speak got to see any of the architectural renderings or drawings that were being spoken about. Notwithstanding that, when council first got up here and spoke about the tree, it was identified as an elm tree because I wrote it down. The second time when he spoke about the tree, it was a maple tree. Quite frankly, I don't know what kind of a tree it is, but I know that the tree is there. And I know that this was a big issue, or one of the big issues. You know, notwithstanding the fact that the court has ordered you to accept this plan, the court has also given you the right to make certain qualifications or to tweak these plans. I mean, that is what the ruling was. It comes back to you for you to put those constraints that by law you are entitled to put on. Now, there is a huge tree there, whether it's maple or elm, I have no idea, but it's been there forever. My concern, even though this tree appears in these drawings, is that somewhere during the course of this project that's being done, an oops occurs, and the next thing we know, the tree is gone. Or an arborist is hired to say that due to the excavation of the ground, the tree is now not going to survive, so it had to be taken down. I, as a resident, and I as someone who is unfortunately going to have to watch this project go forward despite everything that we tried to do, would like to know what safeguards or what authority or what oversight is there once these plans are okayed. Is there somebody that actually goes to this site to make sure that what you're being shown is in fact what is going to be done? You've got artists making drawings or whatever of things that are going to occur, but who is it that shows up to make sure that things are occurring the way they're supposed to? When a building is up and all of a sudden it's 2 feet higher than it showed on what was presented to you, what happens to us? I guess that, for me, is one of the major questions. Because although I wouldn't accuse anybody of anything, I know that the oops factor does occur when there are things that are supposed to remain that get in the way of construction and progress. My second issue is the fact that if you drive up right now to the corner of Hildreth and Bunker Hill, of Hildreth and Bunker Hill, you will find a pool of frozen water. And that water is in fact running from somewhere in that property. And it is now pooling at the intersection of Hildreth and of Bunker Hill. And it's an ice skating rink. You could drive up there right now and you would see it. Again, I would like whatever is going on there, somebody to find out what's going on and to make sure that this isn't going to be something that is going to continue to occur. My third thing has to do with the landscaping plans that have been submitted. You can go up there and look at the property that is directly across the street. There were landscaping plans submitted with that property as well. And I can tell you that that is one of the biggest eyesores on Hildreth Street. I don't know what kind of drawings or renderings you people got with respect to what the landscaping was going to be and how it was going to be maintained, whether or not they care that the bushes that were planted are now all dead and the grass is all weeds, etc. Again, what happens to us when these plans go through and they're not carried through the way that they're being presented to you? Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else like to speak?
My name's Jim Heller, 54 Parkview. I'm here with my dad, who's an abutter, George Heller. Just a couple of quick questions that I was unfamiliar with. It's my understanding that there's now going to be a wall facing on Hildreth Street. I came in a minute late, so I didn't pick up on that. And I don't remember that there was going to be a wall up against Hildreth Street. And for the building closer to Hildreth Street, how tall, and I know that supposedly height is not an issue, but how tall will that building therefore be above the grade that's there right now and not the grade? Apparently that wall is going to be there as a retaining wall, would be my understanding. And how tall will that building be above what is the existing grade right now if there is in fact a retaining wall installed? I would presume that is there to increase the grade. And also, I think it was also mentioned that the building will now be a bit closer to Hildreth Street, the one on, if we can call it the north side of the lot, I think is how it was referred to. How much closer is that going to be to Hildreth Street? And how much is this retaining wall, which, again, I couldn't see those renderings very well. Looks like that's going to be pretty much on the property line up against the sidewalk. How is that going to restrict the vision of people pulling out of Bunker Hill onto Hildreth Street? I know my dad's got to pull out of that street all of the time. It's a pretty heavily traveled street. You've heard all about the traffic due to St. Louis School. How's that going to be with vision? I hope you'll be able to consider that in what you give for guidelines, because remember, when somebody pulls out of Bunker Hill and takes a left, which is where most of the traffic would come out of, that's the long way up Hildreth Street where people are coming out. Within, and I'm guessing, 100 feet, there's a crosswalk which the children are using going back and forth to St. Louis School and the Robinson School and the McAuliffe School. Once people take that left and start accelerating even slightly, they're at that crosswalk because it's not even as far as Richardson Street from that crosswalk. So I think 100 feet would probably even be generous with that. But I would like, and my dad, we were just discussing it, we'd kind of like to get an idea of the height of that retaining wall and where that's going to place the top of that new building, particularly as there was no building previously very close to Hildreth Street. The building, the existing building is set back. That's where one of the buildings are going to be, but this other one is basically sitting where what is about 4 inches above the street grade right now. Thank you very much for your time. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Anybody else like to speak?
Good evening. My name is Anne Marie Page, and I own the home at 26 Fremont Street, Lowell, Mass., and I'm the president of the Centerville Neighborhood Action Group. We were here before on this project several times, and as I said before, and I shall repeat again, this is one of the few developers that did take time to meet with the neighbors on this project, and he evidently has met with planning and development. Unlike the one across the street from this project, which is horrible looking. And as Ms. Kelleher said, at one time there were like 12 little pine trees and 11 of them were dead, right? They look like somebody let their Christmas tree dry up and they stuck it in the ground. But anyways, that's there. So, and I think the main concern is you're under a court order, you know the 4 are going to go in, there are stipulations, and we appreciate the fact that you're addressing those issues. And the ugly wall was one of the issues, and the beautiful tree was one of the other issues. And again, we appreciate that you are addressing these issues. The pictures are quite attractive, and instead of it looking like Condo City across the street, it looks like it may give the appearance of a little duplex on Hildreth and a little duplex on Bunker Hill. The walls and the height, you know, when you give us that information and they follow all your rules and regulations, that's rather important to us. And it does look like this gentleman has tried to dress it up so it doesn't look like a slab of cement. So the height is a concern, that retaining wall, and the tree, and the maintenance of the landscape. But I think the most important thing is you're addressing the issues that could be an eyesore to the neighborhood, and that you're addressing the issues, as Ms. Keller said, we want to know who's monitoring it as it's going up. Thank you very much.
Anybody else like to speak? Anyone else? Anyone else? Here, none, at this time, I'll turn over to any board members. Joe, can I start with you, if you don't mind?
Thank you,
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman. And thank you once again to the applicant and to the neighbors for the information you've provided to us this evening and the architectural drawings, which are helpful. I just had a couple of brief questions just for clarification. The plans that we got in our package, I noticed there were some changes as were noted by the applicant, but they're all dated November of 2004. Were they just not redated? The changes were made in...
Yeah, and I actually noticed that this evening, that they were not. 3 years ago. There are substantial changes that we made since 2004, which has been an ongoing process. We spent hours with the planning board staff over the summer, and we even made changes from our last meeting to this plan. It's been trying to put a project together that the city is going to eventually going to be proud of. And that's not attorney hyperbole. That we really have listened to the staff. We spent hours with John McKenna and George Williams trying to come up with a plan that worked. One of the significant
Sir, excuse
Not to
me,
interrupt,
sir.
but we should probably
You should
have you
use the
go to the
microphone.
microphone so we can pick it up.
One of the significant changes that we made was when we came back to the board in June of last summer, Attorney Linehan had some serious issues with our parking on the building that is in the back, which is the building that is along Bunker Hill, how we laid out the parking. He also had some concerns with the parking on our Hilder side building. What we did is we decreased the size of the building by 2 feet so that we could get more traffic in and out of that area, and we also eliminated some parking spaces in the back, increased our amount of paving, and tried to make that a better turnaround area. The plans are dated November 2004. If the board is inclined to endorse these plans, I can assure that we can get a 2006 plan that you could end up signing as opposed to signing the 2004 plan. I really don't know how we could make any other changes, major changes within this plan as far as locations of buildings, setbacks, relative heights, or really any other changes. We've tried to reduce the relative height of the buildings. We've tried to increase area moving around. We've moved things. We've decreased the size of the building, which might decrease its marketability somewhat, but we tried to do that as a safety concern.
With regard to the height of the building, I understand the plan submitted tonight, and the higher of the two buildings, if I'm following right, we have a street level, and then we have the grade level, which is approximately 6 or 7 feet above the street level. Then from the top of the grade, we're running up on the higher of the two buildings, a total of 31.3. So that's what we're measuring from. My question is regarding the grade. Is the grade being decreased? Is it being increased? Is it being maintained as it currently exists right now?
It's being decreased somewhat. The lot is not perfectly flat, so we do anticipate having some earth removal. It does go up from the Hilder side to the Bunker Hill side. It goes up approximately 4 feet, and we are decreasing some of that relative height. When we went through our plans with Mr. Proakis in the summertime and spring, one of the issues was whether or not we could, or whether we would have issues with our with the DPW and the Waterworks Department because we were decreasing the heights. And we did address that issue by reducing somewhat the relative height.
Okay.
As to the question about the wall, the existing wall in the front that's there now, is just going to be replaced with a new wall of the same height, and it'll be refaced to look like the, rendering.
Right, I understand.
That's along
None of the
that
heights of the walls would be changed, you're just gonna reface what's there and replace what's
Correct.
necessary to be replaced.
And then as far as the corner goes, if you've looked at the, first drawing, the stone wall comes all the way out to the sidewalk. The second sheet shows that we've clipped it back. The scale is, 1 inch, 10 feet. That corner is now gonna be opened up at least 15 plus feet.
That'd be the corner of Bunker Hill and Hildreth
You're
Street.
gonna have a lot more visibility now, than you will now when we get it done, so.
The landscaping, I appreciate the fact that you're maintaining the mature tree there as shown on the plan, and I'm certain that will be one of the conditions as well. But has a full landscaping plan been established for this property?
We designated areas in which we are landscaping, and we're open to the board's suggestions, and within those areas, we didn't submit a plan that said we would grow aprovites or what have you. We don't have the way that the property is laid out. There's really not a need for additional neighborhood screening. There is a fence along the right-hand side of the property along Hildreth Street that provides screening. We do intend to plant grass from the on all of our open spaces, and we have designated on the plan areas of landscaping. If the board is inclined through your staff to say that we're going to mandate that you plant whatever, my client is receptive to that. We designated, I guess what I'm trying to say is I designated the open spaces as shown on the plan and have left it for the board to come back and say, this is what we would like to see, as opposed to saying, we will plant X, Y, and Z, because it's not your kind of typical screening landscaping plan that we're trying to set up. We are trying to maximize the green spaces, but that's not saying we're just trying to cheap out on that. We are willing to work with your staff to plant whatever, and we will maintain that, and you can have that as an ongoing condition. We hear the neighborhood's concerns of saying 11 dead trees. We'll try to address that.
Yeah, typically, we would request that you continue to work with DPD to come up with a final landscaping plan. And
we'll
they'll
do that,
assist you
and
with that.
We'll listen to your concerns. We'll make that part of the decision, and we'll do that. So the plan does designate areas of landscaping, but we did not come up with a plan other than to say these are where our green spaces are as shown on the plan.
Okay. And the fencing you're intending to put is depicted on this photograph that you showed us, the white vinyl privacy-type fencing? Okay. There was some concern regarding the water runoff. Can you discuss anything regarding that? Do you have any knowledge of that? I suppose one of the conditions would be no net water runoff, which you're not allowed to do anyway.
I think it was brought up at the last meeting as well, and I'm just surprised that, maybe just, one of the neighbors haven't had the city down to look at it. I don't believe there's anything coming off of our property. I mean, we've had a lot of rain, obviously.
We did, along those lines, we did do some soil testing, and we did look at the soils, especially this summer, to see what we could do with the relative heights and see if that was going to be a problem with drainage. And our engineer said that we have great soils. So I don't know. We don't know what issue was going on. That would be, you can make that part of a, no increased runoff from the site or whatever condition you would like to impose. We don't know of any conditions now that is a problem. The property is uninhabited and it's desperately in need of getting shaped back up, but,
All right, I have no other comments. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Rich, you have any questions or concerns?
Yeah, I have a couple here. Has there been an easement created for access by the city to the drainage system? Seems to me we discussed that before.
frankly, that's new to me, but you may have. We're certainly willing to do that.
Yes.
What we've done in the past regarding, easements for drainage systems, we would make it a condition of the board, make it a condition of approval, and then like the condominium documentation or what is filed with the registry of deeds. There's usually an easement, a covenant of some sort, easement filed at the registry of deeds that we work with the applicant on. We've done this for many other projects, and it's something that's filed at the registry of deeds as part of the final submittal that needs to be filed at the registry of deeds for this project. That typically is what we do for a drainage system, because sometimes the easement isn't drawn up at the night of the hearing. We do have wording that has been approved by our law department regarding that easement that I can definitely provide to the applicant, and it's pretty standard wording regarding easements to the drainage system. Thank you.
Okay. I don't recall how you're handling your trash. Is it private pickup? How are you doing that?
We had discussed at the last meeting that there were going to be separate, containers individually inside the units.
It'll be picked up privately.
And it will be.
It's picked up privately, not by the city, correct?
I'm not sure if that, if it is or not. I mean, I don't know if that's a requirement or,
Well, that was our discussion at the
It's gotta
last
be a
meeting, that
plan.
would be private trash pickup.
because I think they pay for it as it is now, correct? As a separate assessment for trash?
Well, I don't know that that's the case for a development of this type.
Well, I'm saying if they weren't being assessed that, then they would be able to go private, correct?
As I said, I don't know that the public pickup is available for a site of this type. Would you know that, James? Full unit?
I believe for projects, I'm not exactly sure of the exact. I know projects of larger size, it could be anything over 3 units requires private pickup. I'm not sure. There is a standard that the city holds for condominium projects.
We need some clarification on that. One other item. There was a question about the wall along Hildreth Street, and although I went over there and looked at the site, I didn't really take a close enough look at the existing retaining walls there. Could you just clarify what's there now and exactly what you're gonna do to the site?
Along Hildreth Street?
Well, no, along the whole thing.
Okay.
Okay,
What's
I
the
mean, just-
condition of it now, and what are you
If
gonna
we
do
start
with
at,
it?
if we start at the driveway,
Which
the
is on
west-
Hildreth
left side of
Street.
the driveway on Hildreth Street.
Okay, over here.
And right now, what's there is a block-style wall, just, regular.
Cinder block type, concrete block?
Yeah, concrete block, it's not any color, it's just, the color of concrete. It runs all the way down to the corner of Bunker Hill, or to where the curb cut is, where the second driveway is on the property. It cuts in, goes to the stairs, okay, comes across the stairs, and then it's a different type of wall from that point out to the corner of Bunker.
Yeah, it's a
It's more of a stone
plain,
wall,
yeah.
more of a stone wall there, next to the tree. From the tree back, or from that stone wall back,
Alright, that's-
on Bunker Hill, it's all poured concrete, 4 feet in height, then goes to 6 feet in height, and runs 72 feet back to the property line.
Okay. And what are you gonna do to all that? What are you
The,
proposing to do to all of that?
The Bunker Hill, again, is going to stay, with the same wall that's there existing,
Right,
except for at the point of the tree. That's going to, obviously, the stone wall that's there now is coming out. You will see on that sheet 2 that it is a rounded radius for the corner, which will all be new, and that will be a poured concrete wall running down all the way to Hildreth to the driveway again. And that'll be faced with those, sheets that we gave you today. Bunker Hill and Hildreth will look the same.
okay, what's the height of that wall?
That's the
Along
existing
Hildreth?
wall now, I believe, is just about, I think it's just about 4 feet now, and that's
Okay.
what it's gonna be.
So that'll remain the same in height? Okay, that's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Jerry, any questions, concerns?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. First of all, I'd like to thank the applicant for trying to respond to the the concerns, the facing of that wall I thought was very important. I think that's going to actually add a lot to that site, and then how it appears to the neighborhood. Preserving that tree is going to be, I think, crucial to at least again, the appearance of the height of those buildings, and perhaps we can even put something in there if something was to happen to that tree that would have to be replaced with a tree of a certain size, but hopefully that nothing is going to happen during the construction phase. I have some questions. I'm looking at your second page here. The driveway entrance, if you notice on here, I notice you have handicap walkway access in the corner of Bunker Hill and Hildreth. And then I'm looking at your curbing, your bituminous curbing, and it shows, from what I can see here, it doesn't look like you have handicap access on the walks. I'm just...
I see the same thing, and I believe we've discussed it on earlier plans that was the same as the Bunker Hill as what you see representing there as well. I don't believe that that's how it is currently out there, but we had talked at previous meetings that that's how it would be, how we would take care of it.
But,
So we would add the handicap, on that side as well.
on that side, but if I'm looking at this properly here, or I'm trying to understand, it doesn't, it looks like there's going to be curbing going into the walk here.
At the drive.
At the drive.
That's what I'm saying, is I think that obviously the engineer, he was under some constraints as well, and I think he's just, it's an oversight.
So that's not supposed to be there?
I believe it's not. It's supposed to be represented the other way.
Okay. The second, looking at this page here, the two front walks that come from the front unit onto Hildreth, if I'm looking at your, and matter of fact, you can turn to the next page here, with your existing elevations and then the proposed elevations. One of the things that jumped out at me looking at this, though, is with the existing house sitting further back, and you can see the 34, your elevation at 34, your existing, and you're actually bringing that up a foot, and you're bringing it up closer to Hildreth Street, the 35. And if I'm looking at, and so we're looking at, an engineer, all due respect, I would have appreciated a few more shoots here of elevations, but best I can tell, the street elevation on Hildreth is 30, so I'm looking at a 5-foot drop from where the structure is going to be, and at least from these plans, I don't see these as stairs. Are these going? That's going to be a steep ramp. You're covering a 5-foot drop in a very short span. I was just curious, are there stairs there, or are they?
It's actually was going to be depicted exactly like the back building.
Which the back building has stairs.
Right.
But I don't see them in here.
You're absolutely right. It should have like I said, the same walkway that comes between, the two buildings, which meet up at the stairs, come down, go through the wall, and that's why you'd have your height. The existing wall, like I said, is 4 feet at the street, at the sidewalk, and then you see where the 35 mark is.
Right.
That's gradually going up from the top, from the wall towards the building. So
You can see what our concern was, though, because obviously you were at 35 back. Matter of fact, you shot your spot here for your high
You're absolutely
elevation.
right. I mean, if it was just a walkway, it would be a steep incline.
Yeah, you shot your 35.6, I guess, is your high point, and your building was set back from the road by quite a bit. Then you were at 30, then it sloped, we were at 34 and then sloped down to the street, but we're actually bringing all of that up to 35 and bringing it closer to the street. So I mean, I think you can appreciate the concern there. Also, on the, and I like the idea of cutting that corner, because that was, I think, I think that's going to open that up for people pulling out from Bunker Hill on the Hildreth. So I like that. But and kind of relative to the landscaping, my concern, I don't know what is planned for that particular corner. You know, my recommendation would have been certainly keep that whatever, and I guess with the landscaping, I mean, work something with DPD to make sure that there isn't something that'll block the sight line there. I think that's a plus. There's no question about it. I like the way that's designed. And then secondly, if I'm looking at, well, secondly, I think it's the fourth thing. Looking at this plan, you know, James or Attorney McKenna, if you can elaborate on this, but it looks like that wall, right now as it exists, encroaches on the right-of-way of the road. And I'm just a little concerned because, and I know that's been an issue sometimes in the past, if something happens with relative to this wall, it's actually in the right-of-way, the city right-of-way, and I just, I'm looking at page number 2, if I'm reading it properly.
Is it the Hildreth Street?
The Bunker Hill, back corner of the lot. And I mean, I like the idea of facing it. I'm a little concerned. I'm just wondering if perhaps, and if I could, either James or Attorney McKenna, I mean, would it be advisable to have the city grant an easement? I know with some downtown buildings, matter of fact, when they've been refaced and it's similar and it projects out, that has been something. I mean, is that something that would be appropriate here?
Just looking at the point of concern, it appears that the sidewalk abutting Bunker Hill Street, that's the area of concern you're speaking about, correct? The sidewalk goes out a certain amount, and it does show that the property line is a little bit, and then on the other end, the property line is actually in the sidewalk on the other end. So certainly, if there are encroaching on the right-of-way, there would have to be an easement there, and that could be worked out with the drainage easement if necessary. But it appears that the contour of the road, the way it's structured, the sidewalk maintaining that straight line down the road flares out a little at that end, and it appears that the wall was built to support the land on the other side. I don't know who built that wall, whether the city built that wall when they built the sidewalk or whether the property owner did, so we can look into that, and if there is easements required, then we could make sure that they're
Yeah, I think
issued.
that would be considered, especially where that would be turned over to condominium trust and.
That's right, so make
Yeah,
sure that
association.
that's an excellent point,
Right,
Jerry.
and otherwise, the city may be stuck dealing with it.
That's correct.
Okay. I think that's all I have at the moment, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Steve, any questions?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Guys, I had some questions about the loft. You didn't give us exact dimensions on the loft, so as best I can determine, it looks like it's about 15 by 20 feet in total. Is that about right?
On the actual architectural drawings, the loft, you said?
Yeah, the footprint of the loft looks like it's about 15 by 20, roughly.
That's your loft. I know, but... Is there a particular building or just in general?
The only one building you gave us,
No, there's two plans there.
oh, I don't know, maybe I didn't see that one. I'm looking at the,
It's going to say Hildreth Street or
I'm
Bunker
looking
Hill
at the
on bottom.
Hildreth Street unit. Are they different?
Similar, one of them says Hildreth Street on the bottom. one
I'm
of
looking at the
them
Hildreth
may
Street.
have been divided up as when the whole package was submitted. Some people may have Hildreth.
I'm looking at the Hildreth Street unit, yep.
What's your question?
So my question is, what's the dimension of the loft?
Yeah, he didn't put it on.
I'd need a ruler to figure it
Yeah.
out. I mean, it's the area less the two respective eve areas.
Right, so
You
you
know,
didn't give
and-
us exact dimensions, but from best I can determine here, 15 feet by 20 feet seems to be a reasonable estimate, just trying to fudge it here, right? Now, that includes sloping down to the knee wall, which is 5 feet high. And as best I can determine, the full ceiling height runs from about 10 feet to 20 feet, roughly. So I guess my question is what separates that loft from another bedroom?
I don't think, I don't think there's anything, honestly. I mean, we're not trying to say it's not. I think the drafter just labeled it that way, but could easily be.
Right. So I guess that's my concern, is that actually is quite a good-sized bedroom up there. It's got a window.
It goes to basically marketability.
Say that again?
Marketability of the unit.
Right. But I
The
think...
units are relatively small. They're 22 by 26.
I know, but when you build something as a 2-bedroom unit with a loft, that has a different connotation than a 3-bedroom unit. And what we're really looking at here are 4 3-bedroom units. And to me, that means more people, it means more cars, potentially, it means more garbage. And that concerns me. So I'm a little concerned about that and the extra added impact that really, what is a 3rd bedroom, could have on the whole area. And I'm wondering if you'd be willing to modify it so that that we reduce the height of that ceiling so that it becomes more like a walk-up attic or even a crawl space with the 2 bedrooms. Is that something you'd consider?
I've looked at it, but, with the number of units right now that the city actually has either on the market or on the drawing board approved, there's just no way. Like I said, if this was our first meeting 2+ years ago, probably could. But, markets have changed, prices, cost of the land, everything else. I just can't do it.
Right.
I've got,
Go ahead.
Like I said, it just goes to actually being able to produce, a product that will sell.
Right. Well, I appreciate all the work that you've provided for me here, and not as a cop-out, this is only the second time I've seen you, because I wasn't on the board when you first came in.
I'm sorry to insinuate.
No, I didn't think you did. But it does seem a little deceiving to me to suggest that it's a 2-bedroom unit with a loft. That sounds a lot different than a 3-bedroom unit, and this is really, by your own admission, a 3-bedroom unit.
Well, like I said, I didn't label it, and I never came into the board from day one saying that it was anything different than 3-bedroom. It's always been that, so.
Well, everything I've seen says 2-bedroom
Well,
all
that's what
over
I
it. I'm
said.
sure
I mean,
when you went to court and
This-
stood before the judge, it was 2 bedrooms with a loft. You didn't tell the judge it was.
We didn't actually
3
talk about bedroom count at all. We did talk about dimensions of the units, how they laid out.
Was there any discussion, just out of curiosity, was there any discussion in the hearing about the height from the street? Or was it strictly discussion about height from the grade?
Well, we advocated that your zoning bylaws, which plainly state that it's height from grade. The court, in writing the decision, Judge McAvoy said that you're saying that the building was much too tall than neighboring buildings was an arbitrary and capricious decision, because she went out to the site. We did a site walk. She certainly saw that what compounds the height on this property is the fact that the street is level, the property's here, and the units are
Right.
there. So
Right.
that is what the planning board's concern has been all along, is that
Right.
you have this 3-step type thing, and you have relatively narrow offsets from the road.
Right.
We talked about height, we talked about relative heights. One of the things that we did talk about in the trial at length was that when the city rezoned this parcel, they put this property, which is the only property on this side of the street, in the multifamily district. They didn't put it in the single-family district. The adjacent building on the Bunker Hill side is in the single-family district, and there is quite a big relative height difference there for a whole bunch of reasons. There's the retaining wall, the road goes straight, and that property sits down lower. It's also a single-family home. So the board's concern was that the relative height between those 2 buildings was something that was unacceptable. The court said planning board, if you have a height requirement of 2.5 stories and 35 feet, then if we comply with that, then a decision to say that it's too tall while you're complying with your definitive requirements is something that you can't ask for.
Right, I understand that. I see this as a bit of an exception in my eyes because of the severe grade and steep grade of the property, right? Because when you're on Bunker Hill, which is at 28 feet, and you're looking up at a building that's 31 and a half, up 6 feet, you're really looking at 37, 38 feet, which, from the street would actually not comply with our zoning law, but I understand the zoning law doesn't talk about relative height, it only talks about the grade height. Nonetheless, to me, it seems like kind of an exceptional case.
So we did spend a long time. Attorney McKenna, you don't remember us talking about bedroom counts, do you? I don't think we did.
I don't recall any discussion about the bedroom counts, but I think planning member Gendron is speaking about the height of the buildings now.
Yeah.
Isn't that the point?
Well, but it's related to bedroom count in my eyes. So, Attorney McKenna, given the fact that, a third bedroom would add, additional pressure on this lot, meaning potentially more people, more cars, more garbage, and all of that, would it be a reasonable condition to put on the approval of this site plan to ask the builder to remove the loft, make it a crawl space attic, so that we do not have the added pressure of what could be a third bedroom?
With regards to the decision doesn't specify number of units to be allowed in the plan. So I think if you did propose that, it wouldn't be beyond the scope of the decision of the judge. The judge, in her decision, did say there was ample parking for the number of units provided. She didn't specify a limit to the number of bedrooms provided. Basically said the plan as submitted was to be approved. The plan specifies that there is to be a number of bedrooms, and if it specifies that the loft area could be designated for storage only, that's a decision that the board could put forward. Reading the decision, I don't see anything that says or limits any of the number of bedrooms.
Sure. Okay. So based on what you just told me, it sounds like that would be a reasonable condition to propose. Again, I appreciate everything you guys have done. I think you've provided a lot more information than you had to, including the artist rendering. And I think what we're getting here could be something that the city is proud of. And I'm glad that you feel that that's what you want to create, because what's there now is dragging the neighborhood down.
And we're also
two 2-unit dwellings, I think, is appropriate, and I think four 2-bedroom dwellings is appropriate. So I am going to suggest that we place a condition on whatever site, whatever the board decides here, to remove that loft and turn it into a crawl space.
Just one point, Mr. Gendron, just with regards to, the judge did have a finding of fact with regards to parking, and the parking isn't based upon, in the zoning bylaws, it isn't based upon the number of bedrooms, but the number of units. So the zoning really doesn't specify the number of bedrooms that may be allowed, just for clarification.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you.
And my only brief statement would be that the judge does cite in her decision the Supreme Judicial Court case of Beal versus the Planning Board of Rockland, which states that a planning board exceeds its requirement or exceeds its authority if requirements are imposed beyond those established by rules and regulations. Your rules and regulations in the TMF district do not limit the amount of bedrooms per unit. They limit the amount of units that you can develop based upon your square footage of available land, but it doesn't say that you can't have a kitchen.
Sure.
And the rest of it be bedrooms.
Sure, I'm aware of that, but I also think that, there's issues about traffic that could be generated by additional cars because of that.
I'm
Let me finish.
cognizant of those.
And in addition to that, I also think that this bedroom could be a potential fire hazard. There's only, you're 3 stories up there, and you've got a window 3 stories up, you only have one egress down into another bedroom, or you're actually down into that second floor. So, that's a safety issue in my estimation as well.
I mean, it does
And that
meet-
is within our purview to, you know, identify issues that could be hazardous to safety and traffic.
And Mr. Genver, we are here on a site plan approval, and the plan before us does designate 2 bedrooms. This is a site plan approval process as well, and the plan does show 2 bedrooms that's before you with a loft, which is not designated as a bedroom, but a loft, you know, basically considered as storage, doesn't show whether it's finished or not. So it is a site plan process as well.
Okay.
Okay. We need 8. We have extra space, yeah. Yeah. We can appeal that condition.
Anything else, Steve? Okay. Okay. Just a couple of things I want to address. I think basically to try to address some of the questions that some of the neighbors had. I think the young lady over here, Ms. Keller, had a question in regards to what happens if the plans as submitted are not up to snuff and aren't done correctly. Basically, what happens is, through our building department and inspectional services, we'll have to go out there and look at what's going on. And if we approve a plan with certain conditions, and before they go to get their occupancy permit, those conditions have to be met, or they will not get their occupancy permit, so nobody can move into that site. I hope that addresses some of your concerns. So if you have a question about the plan, if, as we approve with certain conditions, and you have a question on that, you can call the inspectional service in the building department. They'll go up and check on that, and hopefully they can answer your questions. But that is the policing aspect that we have through the planning board, through the city, to make sure when plans are presented to us, that the applicant addresses the plans as approved by this board. I hope that answers your question. In regards to the water, I was up there this week, and I also saw the water. And I also know the water was not coming from another site. It was coming from this site. It was coming, I believe it was over by, closest, as I could tell, was closest to the driveway on Hildreth, the one to the further right, coming in and down the sidewalk. Because I walked the site, I parked on Bunker, walked all the way down the side and back, and I noticed all the water running towards Bunker as well. And that was on Tuesday, when it was warm out and it wasn't frozen, and I could see running water, and that was after there was no rain. But I did detect that there was running water coming somewhere from that site. So I hope that'll be one of the questions that can be addressed through the drainage issue. But there is water on that site, and I couldn't see it coming from anywhere else. It was definitely coming from up and down and over towards Bunker and puddling on the corner of Bunker. One of the other questions, I think the question was landscaping plan. Usually, most of these conditions, if we approve them, we request that a landscaping plan be approved by the Division of Planning and Development. We can also put a condition on that that landscaping plan comes back to this board for our approval as well. So basically, if that plan comes through, and we're concerned about the plan, which I think a couple of the board members raised, and the question I have myself, I think that the board should get to look at the plan, and at least we should have some input into the plan as well. I think this gentleman in the back had a question in regards to the wall, and I think we tried to address that a little bit. I think the applicant tried to do that, the wall on Bunker and Hildreth. It is now, it comes out, it's like on a 90-degree angle. It is cut back, it's rounded off, so I think the visibility will be a lot better on that plan. If need be, I can give you a copy of my sheet so you can take a look at it, or I can give you a copy of my plans, 'cause I know we have plenty in-house at Division of Planning and Development. But the way that wall comes this way, then cuts back now, it is rounded back. As I think the applicant said, it's probably at least, I think with the grade, he said maybe 15 feet back as it comes around the corner there. So I believe the visibility will be a lot better off. And as I'm talking about that wall, that's in front of the tree where that other little driveway is with the steps going up. So hopefully it's to the left there where that driveway is. I don't believe that's going to be there anymore, the way this proposed retaining wall comes around the front and down Bunker. I think there was a couple of other issues. I think the gentleman mentioned the landscaping plan. I think I tried to mention that. I know the tree was an issue. I think that could be addressed as a conditional approval. I don't see a problem with that. I think that's been an issue that was raised by all people, and the applicant said they will do that to put that tree on there. We can also, if that is ripped down, then they wouldn't get the occupancy permit. If either that, then we could tell them that they'd have to replace something similar in size. Hopefully, they would keep that there, and hopefully with construction, they should be able to get around there because that is further enough off the site where basically the only thing they're doing to that wall there is fixing the outside of the wall, so it shouldn't touch the tree at all. All the other construction on site, it shouldn't be touched. So I don't see an issue with that tree being demolished by construction unless, but you never know. I understand that. A couple of other issues I think that were brought up, let me see. I think there was a question of the height of the retaining wall. I believe the answer to that one was that the wall is going to stay on same height as it's now, correct? It's not the same height now? No, I mean, well, the wall now, what they're going to do, they're going to put in the proposed retaining wall. What it is, let me ask the applicant here, where the wall is now, the wall, I know it's going to be about the approximately the same size, height? Yes. Okay, right, it's going to come straight along, right? There is no wall there. When you look, when you look at the, when you look straight at the project, right, there's the sidewalk. There is no front wall along Hillary Street. It's about 16 feet back from the street. Right. When you look straight at the project, right, there's a sidewalk. Yeah. Then the sidewalk, there's a wall.
No, about 16 feet from the sidewalk is the wall, except right at the corner.
Well,
the wall on Bunker Hill.
I'm talking about the wall on, I'm talking about the, okay, I'm talking on the wall on Hildreth.
The wall on Hillary Street
Right.
is at least 14 or 16 feet back from the sidewalk. It is nowhere near, right there.
Well, when you walk on that sidewalk now, right, I mean, it slopes up.
No, it's paved area.
Right.
That's about 4 to 6 inches higher than the level of Hildreth Street. The entire width of the frontage of the property on Hildreth Street, except for where the wall, parallel to Bunker Hill, juts out, that's exposed on both sides. Almost
Right.
more as a fence than, it's not a retaining wall, it's a freestanding wall.
Right, okay, freestanding wall, okay.
But there is no wall within 14 or 16 feet of Hildreth Street, other than at the corners of the lot, for the width of about 12 to 16 inches.
Because when you come in the corner, the wall comes up, and then it
It goes right back in return.
Right.
The width of the wall.
and there's like a little driveway there. And then a set of steps.
And then, well, that driveway continues across the whole front of the property as it exists, right? There's the existing wall right there.
Some wall there.
Used to have a rail fence there, but there's no concrete retaining wall. I can agree with that.
Okay.
There's a quick, easy way to find out if there's a retaining wall there. And it's not for us to argue about it in here. It's
Right,
for
I understand.
somebody to take a look.
I agree. I agree with that. I know what the plan is. I mean, what it says here, I've been up there a number of occasions. I understand what we're talking about, the wall in the area. We're looking at the plan here, but in any event, what's proposed here is that there will be a wall in the front, correct? And that's where I think Jerry got into it, where the walkway would be, and he talked about the slope there, where there's gonna be steps. What's that?
No, that's Bunker Hill.
Right,
Doesn't show
Yeah.
Hildreth.
right. No, the only picture they show me, one is on Bunker, this one. Right.
Oh, there's definitely a wall on Bunker.
Right, oh yeah, there's no doubt about it, because it starts low and goes up here, right. And then this one, it comes out here, and then we would be here, we go here and take a left. They're just trying to look at the pictures that we have in the packet. Well,
There's the retaining wall right here.
yeah. Now, from the site view, it shows this wall coming down here, it decreases here, then you go left, correct, if you're on foot? Absolutely. Okay, and then when you go left, you come in, and there's a little driveway, okay? And then the aerial photo here shows where the driveway is, you come out, and then there's the wall off the sidewalk. If you could show that, Mr. Chairman. I don't know if we're talking retaining wall or just plain wall, if that's the semantics, or the fact that there's a wall there. There's a wall there, I don't know what you want to call it. Yeah. Straight the other day, I've been here several times.
It is what it is.
Yeah. I'm like, no. I understand. Just trying to address the issues. Yeah. You know, I mean, there's a wall there. I was there Tuesday, been there before. I don't care what you call it. You call it retaining wall, you call it. It's a wall. Because it comes, I think it cuts in, comes out, goes back, it goes in, then it goes up their driveway. Yeah, there's a little driveway there. You go there, up the set of stairs, and if you look there now, there's a little portable gas tank out there like you'd use for cooking. That's why the guy said there's no one in there. Because it's like, you know those little ones you take on vacation about this big, and you take a little propane tank, sitting right up there on the steps. Yeah. I've been there twice in the last 2 weeks, both 2 times it was there. So I didn't know if I was going to have lunch there or not. Getting back to I think, tried to address most of the concerns that were brought up. Those are basically the questions I had and concerns that I had, and tried to answer some of the questions from the neighbors. And again, I want to applaud all the neighbors for coming, because I know a majority of you have been here for every single meeting, starting way back when this came in, back when I believe it was maybe 12 units, then reduced, and the same faces are here. I know young lady over here was here, this young lady was here, the gentleman here and his father have been here at every single meeting. And I know we're trying to do what we feel is best on this plan. I think a lot of our concerns from day one definitely were the same concerns that the neighbors had, and I think those are basically still the concerns I have today. Hopefully, with the order that we're impelled to do by the court and the conditions that we're going to try to put on this site and the new plans that the applicant has given to us and the concessions that they've made in trying to address up this site, I'm hoping that this site will look a lot better than it does today. I know, again, being up there, the maintenance of the area is not very well kept, and I know that is a nice sort to the neighbors who live up there, and I'm hoping with the new development up there that it'll be a lot more nicely maintained. The landscape may maintained, as council has indicated it would be, and I hope that will improve what's there today. And I know it's easy for me to say because I don't live there, but I know the neighbors do. And I know this board takes very much heart and concern in what the neighbors' output is, as we always do. And I think we've tried to do what we thought was best on this plan, and we'll always continue to do what we think is best. And saying that, I'll turn over to the board, and I'd like to make a motion.
I'll take a crack at that, Mr. Chairman, and certainly I'll try and incorporate some of the things that were mentioned by my fellow board members. And I agree with you. We certainly want to make this project the best project possible with the direction that was given to us by the court. I feel that the developer can make a nice project out of it. I'd like to make the motion that we approve the site plan and the special permit pursuant to the Superior Court judgment with certain conditions. One, I'd like to see the applicant work with the DPD on the architectural plan and submit the finalized plan back to us for our review and approval. Two, I'd like the applicant to work on the grading on the site to minimize the height imposition. I understand they've done that already, but certainly that is a major concern. So anything that can be done to minimize the height imposition would be appreciated, and would certainly make a condition that there be no increase in the grading above the current grade. We'd ask that provide a facelift for the current retaining wall with the brick face finish that was supplied to us by the applicant this evening. Provide for private trash pickup if the city pickup is not available. We're not certain of that, but if the city pickup is not available for this project, to provide for the private trash pickup. Provide that the utility meters will be hidden from street view. Provide a 6-foot white vinyl privacy fence as depicted in the photographs given to us by the applicant this evening. Provide that there be no net water runoff to the abutting parcels. Provide the city of Lowell with an easement for access to the drainage system. I'm sorry, what?
The wall in the back on Hilda?
Yeah, I get that. Coming up, coming up on my list.
On the easement, that's okay.
Okay, to build the project in substantial conformity with the architectural renderings that were submitted this evening, to retain the mature tree on the site as shown on the plans given to us this evening, to obtain an easement if needed to maintain a possible encroachment of the wall on the city property, that the loft shown on the plan as approved by the court not be utilized as a third bedroom but be retained as a loft or other storage area. Due to traffic and safety concerns, we don't want them made as a third bedroom. And finally, just note the date on the plan, the date that these plans were revised, so that we don't have just the November 11, 2004 date.
Right.
I believe that was all I had on my list.
I'll second that motion, Mr. Chairman. I have a couple of,
There might be,
Okay, discussion? Go ahead.
did you have something?
yeah, there's a couple of things, Joe, that also on the plan, I think we should have, you've got the stairs going up that little slope into that Bunker Hill unit
this
along
is on
on Hildreth Street. I think you should show that on the plan, as well as a full landscaping plan.
Yeah, we have that, right?
Not sure you said that. Including the tree that's there.
Yeah, he mentioned the tree.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's all.
Any other board members for discussion?
Mr. Chairman, just quickly on the plans and exactly what Mr. Lockhart referenced, because not only that, but the artist rendering has one set of stairs coming down, and this has two.
Mhm.
I don't know which it is, and if somebody's going to be signing off on this as an approval, is it, I don't know, to the petitioner?
Oh,
The question is it going to be two sets of walkways on Hildreth Street going up to the doors, or one set? We see it on the rendering, but I believe on the plan, as discussed, there's two sets of walkways up, so it'll be,
It's supposed to be identical to the way it is.
right.
yeah, that's just a rendering, yeah.
So what Mr. Fischett is getting at, as I know when he addressed the walkways to the two houses on Hildreth Street, he indicated those are supposed to be stairs, correct?
One set of stairs up
Per-
the street.
per unit.
Splitting to the two walkways to the front door, just like it is on Bunker
Okay.
Hill Street.
So not per unit,
No, okay. all
just
right.
one, and I think that needs to be incorporated, because anybody's signing off on these plans,
Yeah,
it's,
it does.
So-
And we'll make that change when we have the plans dated.
So basically, what you're addressing is, okay, so the front on Hildreth Street, as it didn't look like steps, it's going to be incorporated as the way it looks on Bunker, correct? Right, okay. Does that answer your question, Jerry?
yes,
Okay,
thank
I
you,
appreciate
thank
it.
you, Mr. Chairman.
All right,
Mr. Chairman?
yes, Mr. Jenner.
So my concern is with the condition as was stated by Joe regarding the loft, is that it's probably going to be inconsequential, because if we say, you can't use the loft as a third bedroom, well, that's not going to hold water. As soon as somebody starts living there, it'll be used as a third bedroom. So I would like to suggest that we modify or we amend that motion and change the condition on that loft, because I see the loft, that third bedroom is what it really is, having a significant impact on traffic and safety of the people living in the unit. So I'd like to change that condition to the loft be converted to a crawl space attic with a maximum height of 6 feet.
My
So I
my
guess I'm making a
concern with
motion that we amend.
Let me see if
No,
Mr.
no, I understand where you're coming from, and where I may agree with you. My concern is that the plan that's in front of us is the plan that was reviewed and approved by the judge. So I just have a concern modifying substantially the plan that's coming before us. I think we can certainly make it a reasonable condition that they stick to the plan and that be a loft and not a bedroom, but I'm not sure that we can modify it dimensionally, at least in my opinion.
So based on the advice of Attorney McKenna, that's something that could be promoted as a condition.
My advice would concur with Mr. Claremont with regards to modifying the plan, and the condition be that it be used as a loft storage space and not as a bedroom. I think you clearly
Didn't you tell me
designated
just a
that.
little while ago that we could make a condition that said we could,
Designated as a
require.
loft, but I didn't say that you'd modify the plan. You know, again, as Mr. Claremont had said, the plan was reviewed by the judge. They didn't specifically say as to the number of units in the decision, so I don't think you're going against the decision.
see, I guess I have a problem with that, because the plan, as it stated, shows this as a loft, and the developer stood there at the mic and said, you know, we're not going to market it as a loft. It can certainly be used as a third bedroom. I think that's deceiving. And so given that, I mean, I'm still making the motion that we amend the motion on the floor.
Any further discussion before, and then we'll take a roll call. Anybody else have a further
So I
discussion?
guess there was no second on that.
No, I know that, but I want to, we have two motions. First, we have Mr. Claremont's motion, and then we have your amended motion.
Right,
So
okay.
I just wanted to see if there's anybody else have any further discussion before we take a vote. So let me first go back on, let's see, which way am I going to take this? You guys first? And then go to-
Well, I believe my motion, as I put forward, I had 13 conditions, and I believe the 14th one was, as proposed by Jerry, that we show the stairs that are shown on the architectural renderings on the actual plan itself, and that 15, that there be one set of stairs servicing each building. I think the 16th condition was one proposed by Mr. Gendron, and again, I'm not comfortable with that from my particular perspective. So
So you're not going to amend your,
I wouldn't amend it to add that, but certainly as an alternative motion, if you wanted to present that in that fashion, I believe it can be presented that way, so perhaps we should have a roll call on,
So I think
if we all
should- I
accept
think,
conditions
Mr.
1 through
Chairman, I
15.
think, so my motion needs to be seconded and
well,
voted
first,
on before we
I think
amend it.
first of all, we have to go back, because he made the first motion, and see if his motion gets the second, and then if it does get the second, then we have to either vote on his, or then alternatively vote on yours. If he gets a second, and then we do a roll call, and his motion carries, then I think your motion's dead in the water.
So we could do it that way.
And then if he doesn't get the majority vote that he needs, then we can go back to the alternative motion.
So
Now,
what-
under consideration, I want the board members to remember, we have two votes we have to take. One on the site plan, which needs a majority vote, which is 3 members, and one on the special permit, which needs 4-member vote. So we're making 2 particular votes. Correct?
Yeah, but perhaps where there's a difference of opinion, we should take them separately. We sometimes combine the site plan and special
Yeah, but
permit.
I'm just saying to the board members, we need 2 different votes and 2 have different majority votes.
Mr. Chairman, can I make a suggestion?
Sure.
So my motion was to amend the motion on the floor.
Right.
So if my motion is not passed,
Right.
then the motion on the floor carries.
Correct.
So my motion, we need a second and a majority approval from this board in order to amend the motion.
Right.
So I didn't hear anybody leap to second my motion, so
Okay, well,
I'm guessing that
let me back
my,
up and say, does anybody want a second, we'll go that way then. Does anybody want a second Mr. Genman's motion? Hearing none, let me go back to the original amendment. Does anybody want a second Mr. Claremont's motion?
Yes, I second
Attorney second.
Attorney Claremont's motion.
In regards to the motion, is that in regards to the site plan or special permit together? You want to take
I
it?
think we'll take it first for the site plan.
Okay. Okay. James, can you just do the roll call so we have them all in order here? If you would start, I'd appreciate it. And this is the motion to approve the site plan.
Mr. Chairman, before we do the roll call, could I ask one other question?
Sure.
Of the developer? is there a way that you could restrict use of that loft? Are you willing to take any other measures to restrict the use of that loft as a third bedroom?
We're not willing to do that, and just by way of background, this is a trial exhibit that we use, and the actual loft area that we're referring to was referred to as a bedroom in our trial exhibit.
It was referred to as a bedroom in the trial exhibit.
Yes.
But everything we got refers to it as a loft.
Once again, what happened procedurally in this case is that we went back to the board to try to work with your departments after we got denied, after we filed suit. During that process, there have been probably 20 plans that have been created for this project. This is our trial exhibit. This is what we use for architectural drawings. It does label it as a bedroom. Your zoning bylaws don't say that if you're going to have a unit that you have to limit the number of bedrooms. Once again, they're small units. I don't know if we're going to have 8 people living in a unit, but I don't think that is going to do it. I understand.
I wouldn't be surprised. I wouldn't be surprised. If you have a 3-bedroom unit, I wouldn't be surprised at all to see 8 people living there.
Can we take the roll call, please, James, if you don't mind, on the site plan?
Correct. So the roll call for the site plan, I'll start with the far end of the table.
Sure.
And work my way back. Steve Gendron,
No.
Jerry Fischett,
Approved.
Richard Lockhart,
Approve.
Thomas Linehan,
Approved.
and Joe Claremont.
Approved.
In regards to the special permit, if we do the same roll call, please?
Certainly. Just making note of it. For the special permit, I'll start at the other end again. Steve Gendron,
Yes.
Jerry
Approved.
Fischett, Richard Lockhart,
Yes.
Tom Linehan,
Yes.
and Joe Claremont.
Yes.
Therefore, the motion's carried. Only thing I want to state is, I agree, Steve, with what you're saying in regards to trying to limit that to the bedroom. Legally, under the court order, and what Attorney McKenna says, and Attorney Claremont says, legally, I agree with them. I don't think we have that ability to change that. I understand your reasoning, and to try to limit the amount of people in there. And I think the only legal way we can do it, basically, and in good faith by the applicant, is how they build it, is by the condition that Joe put on it. And once they build it, and once they sell it, it's basically the same as what you and I do to my house. Even though I have an attic and shouldn't put another room up there, do I do it? Yeah, can I get away with it? Do I get caught? What are the ramifications? That's basically what happens. So I think the board has done what we could by putting the condition on it, and hopefully, if it's policed properly, I think that's within our purview, and I think we're trying to do the best we can to address that issue, and I think if we could, I think I'd be in favor of it, but legally, I don't think we have the right to do that. So hopefully, they'll build it as a loft. One of the issues I do know is if you look at that loft, the highest point is 7 feet, the smallest point is 5 feet. So it's not really that tall up there. I know people can still move up in the air. If you look at it, when it starts up here, it goes up to 5, then it goes to 7.1.
Can you see that? I don't even see that on the drawing.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's in
from the top of the
So it isn't as big
From the
as.
top of the subfloor to the bottom of the ceiling joist is 7, 1, and 1/4.
So basically, it's not gonna be that big, but obviously, if people are gonna try to put a bedroom up there, they could. What they do is they put their bureaus against the wall where the 5 feet is, so they don't hit their head. And then, like anybody else's house that have a slope in the front, they put the bureaus there, and then they put the beds over here. But hopefully I know, in regards to the motion, and I think that's the way, so if they build it that way, and then they turn it over, whatever happens to the owners there, but at least, I think we safeguarded by trying to make that a condition. Okay, thank you. Yes.
Mr. Chairman, may I also make a quick point just for the neighbors that came out today? Since the time of the court decision for this project, the Division of Planning and Development has gone through a revision of the special permit criteria to address some of the issues that came up through this court process, and we have a new 17-point question system that puts into the zoning regulations a special permit criteria that allows the board to essentially review projects with a higher standard. Unfortunately, with this project, the previous zoning is what was required to be heard tonight and all previous subsequent reviews of this project. So the board was somewhat limited in their review for this project. However, future projects that happen, we have taken this case and several other concerns that we have heard, and we have tried to incorporate all of those concerns into the zoning. I just want to make that a point for the neighbors, so you know in the future projects in your neighborhood will be held at a higher level of review from the board. Thank you.
Thank you very much, everybody. You're welcome, thank you. Good luck. Thank you.
Yeah, good luck
Appreciate
with
it.
that. Looks good.
Thank you, Counselor. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Oh, boy.
Good luck. Thank you. Thank you for coming, I appreciate it. You live in Bucky's?
80 years? Oh, yeah. That's a long way.
Wow. Something's wrong, yeah. It's nice to have neighbors like that. Yeah, it's nice to have neighbors who watch each other. Yeah. At least this, you know, they can do 12, they get it done to 8, and then to 6, and then go through 4, but at least we get our best of it. Oh, sure. Yep. Yeah. So, one of the gentlemen I used to work with used to live on Bunker Hill, Dick Roberto, just passed away recently. They put off some old, they put nice one. Yeah. Maybe that's what some of the water is.
Was it slow?
Yeah.
Yeah. See, there's wetland, there's been water issues.
Yeah, that's amazing, huh? Yeah, so where's the water go? Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah. That wetlands travels quite a ways over in that.
I'm sure you told him not to go on there. Yeah.
Yeah.
And your
You're
kids are
saying it,
playing in
yeah.
it, yeah. I used to go on back Brook, my parents told me not to go down there until we got caught on a raft one day. But I'll leave it there. Yeah, that's not as bad right there. That Bunker Hill area is still nice, yeah. The condos down there, yeah. Yeah. No. Yeah. Good reason. Thank you.
Thanks for coming out.
You're welcome. Thank you. Moving on to the next matter, we have a pre-application session. The following individual has requested that the planning board to approve a preliminary review of their proposed project at the address listed below. This is not a public hearing. Each project will require a public hearing at a noted date in the future. This project is at 672 Chelmsford Street. Applicant is Daniel Sacco, Polaris Engineering. Project construct 2 units on lot with 2 units. This is in a traditional mixed-use zone and has required a site plan and a special permit. Can we hear the case for the applicant, please?
Here you can see the existing conditions. We have, this is Chelmsford Street here, and we have a two-family house here where it's one unit on the lower floor, one on the upper floor. There's an existing garage in the back that is not very good condition and will be removed. Then we have a driveway coming in here with parking in the back, and this right now is space and lawn. So the proposal that we came back to in the last time was to obviously keep this existing building here and then add on what you see here in blue. I don't know why this is black out here, but it's the only thing that's going to be the new unit here. And this proposal meets all of the zoning requirements. We have our usable open space, we have the parking, and we have all the setbacks necessary for the proposed addition. There is a encroachment of 0.8 feet on the existing building. Once we get, as the development property line is made down to here, the new building will meet the setbacks under this proposal. So going into the two-building proposal, the first layout that we investigated was to look at a building in this area with a driveway coming around the back, putting the parking in the back. This is the one that we discussed mainly with James and George, and it really looked good on the plan for an area where the paved and with the scale and pencils trying to put together. But once we put the put on AutoCAD and realized what the setbacks really were and had more precise measurements, we realized that we can't fit all of the green space. We only provide 461 square feet of usable open space, whereas it's 1,000 is required for this. It does meet the building setback requirements and the driveway requirements, and it would be, I think it would be nice layout. This we were really excited about. I wasn't, I think James George thought this was a good plan, and the applicant was also actually excited about it. And we put a little courtyard, some type in here, maintain similar setback, maintain the neighborhood character by matching the similar architectural details, and once we put together, we realized that it was going to meet the usable open space. We'll look at another option here, and this one involves putting a driveway in between the two buildings. And the problem with this plan, and I think there was a typo in my letter summarizing this, that we do not need building setbacks on this side for the proposed building, and we do not meet the usable open space requirements. I'm sorry, actually, we do meet the usable open space requirements in this. We don't meet the building setbacks. And because of the requirements for the driveway
So basically, we have three plans, correct? I mean, I read your 3 proposals, I mean, with 3 individual plans that were submitted to us. Yes. One was the one that you came in on December 18th, which would be, I never done 1, 2, and 3, so, because I took those off your letter dated January 18th, you started your conceptual residential development plan, I numbered that 1. Number 2 was the development plan, alternate A and alternate B, I put those as 2 and 3. Okay. So if I refer them that way, that's the way I'm gonna refer them to, if you don't mind, okay? So I was up there the other day and I was looking at it and I pulled in the driveway, looked around at it, and so the garage is going down is what you told me, correct? Yeah. Right. Okay. Yeah, so that's gonna open up that room in the back, where that area is. So, first question, I think when you came in, I know I wasn't here, I was at home recuperating from surgery, but I was watching it live on TV, so I knew I'm pretty much familiar with what went on that night. I knew, basically you're gonna try to keep it on the back, and some of the questions that night was by the board members is to break it up, correct? You know, and that's why you're back here with another plan, I believe. I remember watching, they said, maybe if you put it, instead of adding it to the back, put it somewhere else on the lot.
Yeah, they don't like the long building, they'd rather have 2 separate.
Right, I think that was some of the concerns that you heard that night. I think a couple of the members brought that up, instead of having the long big building, if you break it up, maybe have more of a neighborhood area. So basically, when you pull into your driveway, on plan 2 and 3, the building would be to the right.
On plan 2, the driveway would be to the right of the 2 buildings.
Right, but I mean, as you pull in the existing driveway that's there now.
Oh, right.
Okay.
Yes, it is to the right.
With that vacant, it's all grass there now. Looks like sometimes some people might park there, there's some tire marks there, right? I believe there's a truck around the back between the house and the garage when I was there. So both of them would be to the right. The difference between plan 2 and 3 is one would have the driveway between the 2 buildings, and the other one would have the driveway to the right of both buildings, correct? Correct. Okay. And if I read it correctly, and I think you said you might have had a typo, so let me follow you. So on plan number 2, you said it met all the zoning requirements and setbacks, and the only difference was you were short the open space. That's correct. Which was you need 1,000 and you have 461, so about approximately half the open space you're missing. Because up in that neighborhood, it's pretty tight for open space as it is now. I mean, if you drive that whole street, look on both sides, it's hard to find a lot of open space.
Yes, I do have your photographs.
I'm familiar with the area very, very well, yeah. I grew up in the Highlands, I know the area well. It's right on the bottom of Jenner Street, right by Norcross Street, right past the Stairway Plaza. And we've been in here for Stairway Plaza, been in here for Lowe's, we know the area very, very well. Very familiar with that area. Okay, I was here when we approved Cross Point, so very familiar with the area. So getting back to the other plan. The other plan, it didn't meet the setbacks, correct?
Correct, that's what the typo is. It does not meet the required setbacks.
But it does meet the open space.
But we can't squeeze in the open space. That should be another.
Okay.
Floating.
So basically, between plan 2 and 3, one is 2 you're missing open space, and 3 you're missing the setback. So the question is,
Correct, and if I can, go ahead.
I mean, so basically, if you're gonna present the plan, one would be a balancing test. What do we flavor more, either the setback or the open space? And also the question of where you put the driveway. Correct.
What is the setback requirement?
Setback requirement is, I believe, 15 feet.
And you have 11 feet 3 inches.
Right, and
I don't see this.
option 3 also decreases some of the architectural details of
Oh, yeah.
the neighborhood.
Okay, so getting back to plan 3, how much would you be off by the setbacks? I guess that's a question. Usually, you know, when we do the site plan, you'd have it on the chart, you know what I mean? Yeah, so we don't need that tonight, but just a question, because if you're saying, you know, we're off by the site setback distance, I mean, if it's a couple of feet compared to, you know, big amount, obviously, that's something that the board will consider.
Setback would be 11.3
And what do you,
for option 3.
yeah, so you have 11.3, and what's required up there offhand? I think it's 15, okay.
So 4 feet 9 inches.
Okay, so you're looking at 4 feet, okay, so approximately a third, yeah. And the open space should be off by approximately a half. Okay. One idea, I do like, in a way, the driveway being to the right, so you're further back from the neighbors to your right. you know what I mean, which would be plan number 2. You know what I mean, because that way you could have both, yeah, I think that way with the driveway down below.
Yeah, that's the open spaces.
You're further away from your neighbor to your right. You're meeting all your setback requirements. The only thing you're missing is a little bit of the open space, so it's basically a balancing test, but I think, if you're a little further away from the neighbor, I think, if I was a neighbor, I'd be more concerned your distance from me than how much open space you had on your land.
And the discussion really is usable open space as defined by the regulation.
Right, I understand.
Whereas we have this that doesn't meet the usable open space.
Right, coming, yeah, which would,
It could be.
Oh, in between, yeah.
because it's between the two buildings.
Like a courtyard,
Right.
and it doesn't count, but
Yeah.
it's gonna be.
And see, that way with it being those two buildings to your left, instead of being divided by the driveway, you're further from that neighbor to the right, and that way, if you filter that in, it's not going across the driveway if you have young individuals there.
Right.
You know what I mean?
No, I mean, so
Sure.
you're looking, so you're going, leaning towards the 2-building concept versus the 1-building concept also?
Yeah, I would agree.
I like it too.
If, under the 3 proposals, I would go along with, I'd take doing number 2 as Monty Hall would say.
Mr. Chairman?
Yep, go
Can I
ahead,
ask a
Steve.
question? So in these proposals where you're building another structure, are we dividing the lot?
No.
So how is it that we can build another dwelling in your yard? Is that like an in-law apartment?
4 units are allowed in this district.
In the zone.
And we're here for a special permit and site plan for maintaining the neighborhood character.
Well, not tonight, you're not, but we're just here for informational tonight, but,
Yeah.
so I'm just, I guess James, I'm asking you, how is it that we can take and build a separate unit in basically the side yard of this dwelling under, how, is that something that's allowed by our zoning laws?
Yes,
I think it fits under TMU, doesn't it?
yes, the zoning district here is the traditional mixed-use zoning district, and this district does allow multifamily projects, and there's no statute requiring that those multifamily projects must stay in a single building. We have actually, in some cases, encouraged the development of 2 buildings on projects whereby it makes more sense to construct a second, for example, in this case, 2-unit building. We wanted to allow that flexibility for special circumstances, possibly such as this one. There are many cases whereby there's enough land area for a 4-unit project on a site. However, with the idea that a project should, at its best ability, keep with neighborhood character, it makes more sense to construct a second building on that site that is possibly mimicking the neighborhood character. So yes, it is something that for certain circumstances is allowed. Again, that's also part of the special permit process, whereby if it makes more sense to keep the 4 units in an extension of 1 building and having 1 building on site, that's under the purview of the special permit process. But it could also make sense to have 2 separate buildings.
So, you know, it's hard to really give you a lot of feedback without the benefit of a public hearing and the normal process. But in my opinion, my personal opinion, I don't particularly like the idea of putting additional units in the yard of an existing dwelling. The lot is 11,000 square feet. It's a decent lot for that neighborhood, but still, putting additional units in, more people living there, more cars, paving over green space, that's the type of thing that I frown upon personally. And if I was living next door to this, I'd be down here, speaking against it. So that's my feedback. In the absence of a public hearing, I really don't feel like I can give you any official feedback, but in general, from my personal opinion, that's how I feel about it.
That's great, that's what we're here for. I understand we really can't get any votes tonight, but I'm just trying to get a feel for.
Sure. As indicated for,
I have a question.
yeah, as indicated for preliminary hearing, it's basically they just come to us and get some feedback. It's like, they ask us what are our concerns, and I think this is, I know it's not a public hearing, but my practice in the past is if anybody comes down, knows it's on the agenda, they're here and they want to speak, obviously, we let people speak, but this is an informational hearing, and they're proposing 3. We can't tell them which one to bring in. They're going to try to get our concerns and figure which one do you think the board thought they liked the best? And then they come forward with their one plan that night. And that night, when they come in front of us, we vote up or not that plan. They're not gonna say to us, which one would you approve? We don't do that. We just pick the one they bring in front of us. So I think what they're trying to do now is try to figure out of the three, which one, informationally, purpose-wise, do we think is a better plan to be presented to us in the future? Not saying that we're gonna vote for any one of them, but, you know, and basically what are our concerns about the plan? I think the first hearing, the first concern was adding it to the building. Now people say break it up, that's a concern. But, you know, when we advanced our zoning, we reduced down the number of units to require the special permit, which is, and now we have 4 there. Where before, I know it was more relaxed, it was a higher number. So it was just a site plan. But now with the special permit, I believe it was Councilor Broderick who brought it down. Jerry, I think you and I were at that meeting. I think Joe was there when, I think he changed it to 2 or 4. I think it was maybe even 2 now.
If you're adding what's 4, if you're adding 2,
Yeah.
James would correct that.
Yeah. And I think that was what Councilor Broderick made when we were across the hall that night when we were going over the zoning. And to bring it down even further, and that was what the subcommittee brought forward before the council when we were attending those meetings. Because, again, the special permit has more teeth than just a site plan. You know, we can look at the neighborhood character with a special permit, and the special permit needs a majority vote, with the special permit needs a 4-member vote. So this is basically conceptual plan, preliminary plan, as we call them, for input for the board. So this is basically time for us to hear our concerns. And I know sometimes people come in on preliminaries, get our feedback, they come in later and try to adjust the plan. Some people get our feedback and don't come back. They just say, oh, you heard them, we don't see them again. I mean, you know, but so this is the time for them to, before they spend the money on the bigger plans, to get basically the feel for the board's full idea, so. Go.
Mr. Chairman, if
I have a
I'm...
question.
Okay, I'll let Chris go first, and James, I'll go to you.
Sorry.
Yeah, I understand Steve's point. You look at the property, and it's very dense right now. Where you get the space to do that, it's hard to visualize that. But having said that, I think green space is very important. What's in between the 2 buildings that you talked about, that being open space, but it didn't count or something? Or?
Between red and blue,
I don't understand what that means.
If you look at the city zoning code definition of open space, it has to be a minimum dimension of 15 by 15, and it has to be 3 feet away from a property line. So the separation
All right.
between the buildings is less than
Definitively
15
like that,
feet.
yeah.
But I really like to see that turn into a courtyard, you know, where, you know, you get people from this side coming over and having a picnic with this side, and, you know, just make it, I don't know, just, whether it's gonna be pavers or lawn, and, you know, some shrubs.
Usable space.
Gazebo, whatever, maybe.
Yeah, I like that alternative there.
Benches or whatever, something like that.
But I also, you know, if you can maximize that open space, I think it's very important for the site because there's nothing around that area that you can walk to or, so I think it's important that the site carry that and you know, maximize the use of that space as best you can.
I have a question as well, Mr. Chairman, if I could. Sure. Have you had the opportunity to speak to any of your neighbors yet?
No, I don't know what to tell them yet, so.
Very close,
Well,
I know the board made a point of that last time.
very close.
And, you know, it'd be nice to say, you bring in 3 options and say, you know, which one you like, but I think it's a little easier, if we say, hey, this is what we're gonna do, you know, now we, so that's what he's doing.
well, I'd probably disagree with you. I mean, you've only got a couple of neighbors or on the bottom side of your plan as we're looking at it that are primarily affected. The people on the other side, I mean, that house is existing and you're taking down a garage, replacing it with some parking, they won't be as affected as the neighbors that are on the bottom here, especially whoever has got this fenced-in garden there. I'm not certain if that's an active garden or something that they, you know, utilize on a yearly basis. But that, now formerly James Prescott and now formerly Zephyris, that existing dwelling is very close to the lot line and retaining line. And if we're looking at even the proposal that has the 15-foot setback, you're going to be within 20 feet of that gentleman's house. So I would think that these people you'd want to speak to and say, this is what we're proposing, and get their thoughts. You know, I think that would be helpful to you. I mean, from my personal perspective, I didn't care for the 4 units all attached together just because I thought it was not as, I thought it was a little unsightly trying to connect a new building to an old. It never really works out that well. So my preference is to split it up. I do have concern that it may be overbuilding on this lot. As you're looking at it, it's very, very tight. You're gonna end up with 10 feet or maybe less between the buildings. And as much as you want to landscape or beautify between those buildings, it's still 10 feet and it's tight. So in my opinion, your neighbors will either be your best allies or your worst enemies, you know, when you come forward with these proposals. So you should speak to them, get their thoughts. They may be in favor of it or not, so I would definitely speak to them about the 3 proposals. From my particular perspective, if you're going to come back with one, I do also prefer that concept A with the driveway to the right of both buildings, attempting to get it away from the neighbors to the south there.
Is this one as big number 2?
Yes, yeah,
No,
yeah,
that's not true.
yeah. Well, not good. Letters and numbers.
I think basically as Joe's following up is, you know, as he says, you get the people to the, looking straight at the building to the left, there's one house where the property line exists now. So they're not gonna be encroached anymore. And then after that, you have a street, I think it's Dome Street, if I remember correctly, right? Heading down Chelmsford toward downtown. So I mean, you're gonna have one neighbor, then you have a street.
Right.
So, I mean, so you go by there, you have one neighbor on that
Right.
side who is, you know, the property line remains the same no matter what you do. But the person on this side, as Joe indicated, could be affected. And that's what I was thinking too by saying, if I was the neighbor, I'd rather be looking out, my property line abutted a driveway would be nicer than if it abutted back of someone's property. Because then it feels like it's more open, even though it is tight up there. You know, you don't feel as hemmed in, you know, because you have that, you have the open space, I mean, the height, you know, it's not like, you don't see them as close, you look out, you see a building when I'm talking, you know, in that way, when you push it over, they don't feel as close. That was one of the concerns I had.
Plus, providing the architectural details, I think, is very important and that you have in that
Here,
plan.
yeah.
So, that would be my preference, but by all means, speak to your neighbors before you
But I'm guessing
come back.
the building, it'd be by looking at the plans, okay, if you did the one over here, the driveway in the middle, then obviously, so the front of the building would be facing in, right? And there'd be the back of the building, so if the people were to your neighbors to your right, they'd be looking at the back of the building, right there, yeah. That'd be, yeah, okay.
Either way, they're facing the back, right?
Yeah.
In these 2 plans?
Well,
Yeah,
that
either
way,
way.
yeah, they come in the driveway, so where would your front door be on this one, down the,
Well,
off the driveway?
again, we don't really have
Okay.
anything, so, you know, if you have some input, but I mean, I really think that,
It'd be off the-
I'm gonna try and make a face where it would be doors open up to this green area here.
Okay.
Open space, but
Because
it
it
would
makes
be doors that come up here.
Okay.
Put the garage is over here, there will be, you know, a utility or, you know, not a front door, but there will be access into, to walk in there.
So if I was driving in, I could drop somebody else off, go there and go up and park.
I'm sorry?
So if you're driving in, you could drop somebody off and then go park in the
Right,
back.
yeah, this is another part of it,
Right.
yeah, right, exactly.
So you wouldn't have to go there, then, you know, say if I was dropping somebody off, I could pull up, let them out, then go park the car.
Right.
So the new units would each have a single-car garage? Is that correct?
They have, yeah, this required 2 spaces per unit, so total of 8. So each one would get curb parking in the loading unit.
Single-car garage for those, and then 6 spaces
Right.
over there.
Do you have any questions?
Mr. Chairman, if I may, I did get a little lost with Plan 1, 2, 3, A, B, C. Is there one plan that meets the usable open space in the setbacks, or do they all have?
There is one plan that meets both of them, and that was the first proposal, which was the single building.
All connected?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay. I always have issue with a new plan that comes before us that doesn't meet the requirements, and then we're looking to make a waiver on that, and that, I always have an issue with that, but,
And you'd need to get a variance, too, on that plan.
That's correct.
Yeah.
We didn't change that, discuss that at length, so, you know, keep our fingers crossed that we do get, you know, something favorable for the board, for the planning board and ZBA. You know, we take that as ZBA, or
James, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Just real quick, and this plan here, or should I say, actually, the plan with the driveway would be between the two units. I'm assuming then the front entrance on those, and I know it wasn't clear with the front entrance, it looks like there's a front walk that goes out. I'm just concerned from a safety issue, because that drive is gonna service the other unit, so that's actually gonna be people going by there to access the back unit. I have a hard time figuring out the distance, but that's just something, again, as a concern. If I know the garages are gonna come out on there, but are the doors gonna come out, the front door's gonna come out on there?
Yeah, we don't have any other architecture.
Right.
In my head, it would be, also, it's quite a utility access door in the back, and I think the front door, it would be also, more decorative, formal door on this side, and, this porch would be able to access this unit, and try and, mimic
All right.
the details on this one. But, again, these are gonna be side-by-side units, where these are first floor, second floor units.
Yeah.
Do you mind if we could see the original plan this minute, if I could? Thanks.
The original plan?
Number,
Oh,
yeah, the one you brought in December, yeah.
Do you have the photograph of the, I know your earlier plan had the photograph of the current home.
So that's the one that,
Oh, that wonderful rendering?
Yeah.
that's the one that Jerry requested, and you told us that the first one meets the open space and the setback, right?
This
The-
one is the open space in the center.
Yeah, the one that's attached unit, right?
Yeah.
So that, if you added on to that, that would be the same,
That's it.
yeah.
Oh, yeah, wait, I remember that now.
Yeah.
Right.
So if you added on to that, the distance between that and your neighbor to the left would stay the same, right there?
Correct.
Okay,
Actually, get a little bit better, but yeah.
yeah. Because I'm thinking, maybe some of our concerns were that some of the people didn't like that being attached. But if you look at it, from some of the neighbors might feel differently because the neighbor to your right is furthest away from them. Then you have two arguments, it meets the open space, it does meet the other one. Obviously, we keep an open mind on everything until we have a public hearing, and then whatever recommendations we get from all this, city departments and the neighbors, they could convince us that maybe that one was better for them to live with, so, I mean, I know we had some concerns on that one, at least it was raised here last time, but that one does meet some of the other criteria, so that might be an easier sell to the neighbors.
Mr.
So I think
Chairman.
as Joe said, you go back and you give them all three alternatives, I think mostly that neighbor to your right is gonna be the one who's affected the most. And they might say, hey, the further away from me, the better off I feel, and then you go back and say, well, I met both, I'm trying to do what's right, I'm trying to meet all your guidelines, so as a advocate, you have more to advocate in favor of that one.
Yeah, we don't really know somebody who does 180, so it's
Yeah,
up to the owner.
so I mean, obviously that person
Do something.
might have a big concern, but,
Yeah.
so in a way to give them the alternatives, and if that one meets more the regulations, that way you're not looking for a waiver. So, yes, Steve?
So I told you my concerns in general with the project, but if I had to choose between these three plans, I'd honestly choose that one, because it maximizes the open space.
Which one, Steve? That one here, the first one?
The initial proposal. Yeah,
James, I know he mentioned that he worked with DPD, and anything that, and through your discussions that you think you could bring to light that hasn't been covered that we might want to consider, or?
I think.
Let me ask a more pinpoint question then.
Okay.
What would the negatives be to attaching to the building because therefore, the positive we know would be he picks up the green space and he has the setbacks?
Right.
I mean, which is a positive.
Right. From just looking at this preliminarily, and I think some of the concerns that were raised at the last meeting mentioned the proximity of the parking to the front, to the Chelmsford Street, essentially, that doesn't necessarily create a facade. So details would have to go into how that would be landscaped, maybe a fencing around there to somewhat hide the parking, or just a line of trees that can definitely work. as well to sort of beautify that parking area. Also, we discussed this, Ted and I discussed this in detail, adding onto any building, it takes a special level of detail to make sure that the architectural details of that new portion mimic or match as best as possible the existing building. And when you do so, you really need to just make sure you adhere to the existing roof lines, existing window styles. And one thing that we've seen that has helped to successfully complete such an expansion is re-siding the entire house so that there's no division between the new and the old. You're not just adding on and just adding new siding. You're actually re-siding the entire house, maybe creating a new color scheme so that all the windows match, so that all the roof lines match, so that all of the trim matches. And those are the levels of details that we really look for when looking at the addition of units onto a house. And we've seen this done successfully elsewhere in the city. Prior to the neighborhood character special permit being added to the zoning, a project like this would have been allowed by right in the city. And we've seen it successfully completed elsewhere in the city. We've also seen it not successfully completed, and we've learned from that. Also, with regards to something like this, just general landscaping to make sure that the new construction is buffered as well as it can be from the surrounding neighbors, and a lot of that can just be what the neighbors want. Some neighbors would like to just see a fence, others would like to see a row of trees, others would like to see whatever that may be. That's something that I always encourage any applicant to talk to their neighbors to see what they want, because each neighbor has a different desire for a buffer between their house, their property and another piece of property. And those are the primary issues or concerns that I can think of for this site. With regards to the 2-unit projects, I think the same concerns hold true, ensuring that the architectural styles are kept intact. Obviously, with a second building not attached to an existing building, you can be a little bit more creative with what you can do with that. You can do different colors. It's all brand new. You don't need to reside the entire existing house. But again, landscaping, making sure the parking areas are properly landscaped. With any new building, with the 2 new proposed buildings, there are requirements for front doors to be facing Chelmsford Street. So that will go a long way to ensuring that it does mimic the existing building or existing buildings along the block. You don't have that concern with adding on to the existing building because there's already existing infrastructure there. And those are some of the primary concerns that I always try to bring to attention to any applicant that comes in to see us.
There's a couple more questions. Is that a front door for architectural reasons, or is that a front door for each unit?
No, for the primary structure, it's primarily for architectural reasons, but if you can incorporate into the design of the internal layout of the building, for example, if that can open up into like a living room or a kitchen, that's always better to do that just as an amenity. But it is more of a, for example,
But he's asking, you don't need both front doors facing Chelmsford Street for the 2 units.
No, that's virtually impossible with that. No, you need just the front door of the primary unit that's right on Chelmsford Street needs a front door that faces Chelmsford Street. It's trying to ensure that it does look like it's a front door to a house that would have been built during the time of the rest of the neighborhood. So it keeps the new construction as much as it can be with the character of the existing neighborhood.
Can I just, Mr. Chairman, and just food for thought, throw it out there, using the plan that we're looking at here with attaching the 2 units to the rear, the usable open space that's in that back corner and the parking is up front, if you could flip that, and if you just look at the streetscape, matter of fact, your profile, your building doesn't change, your units are in the back, you actually bring that green space that you have in the back, bring it up to the street, and then move that parking in the back. Again, I just throw that out. I think that goes a long way as well.
Yeah, that'd be definitely an option. I think we talked about there might be some extra regulations that would require.
Yeah, and then you could actually, with plantings, you could actually provide some screening from the street for the parking, if you did that. I mean, and that's, so anyway.
Anybody else, any questions, concerns? No? Can I just see your visual again for a minute? Because I know I was up the other day, the picture of the, yeah. Yeah, no, that's no problem. I just want, that's quite all right. Yeah. Yeah. Now, let me ask, if you try to keep the street line and do that, how would you try to match it? You gonna paint it, side it? I think Jim brought that, as an issue, to try to make it look continuous.
Part of the way this whole thing came out was, Mr. Sacco wants to improve the house.
Yeah.
It's not a beautiful house. So we wanted to do it. So in order to help finance that, we wanted to add on so they could, get some of the cost back. So his, in the original scenario, he was definitely interested in siding, keeping all one material, one color, and then, we know that the windows have to look similar and they have to be at, similar elevations. We can't draw, a foot down lower on that second half. So we wanted to look like one building has been there, all together at the same time. So those are the things that is the window, the roof line, and the color. Now, I believe it's intended that even if we go to two buildings, he would be recycling, upgrading
Existing?
the existing
Okay.
building. It doesn't have to match the elevation to the windows that way, which would actually make it look more institutional if we did that. So I believe that's still trying to make that one facelift as well.
Yeah, and I think, as Jim said, if you sided it all, it would, look existing. I mean, all look the same. I mean, it's, one thing, if you do put it in the back instead of to the right, because you go there now, you barely see the garage from the street. You know what I mean? You can see the wide open space to the right. If it keeps going back that way, then it, doesn't seem, the appearance-wise, wouldn't affect the neighborhood as much, maybe.
You're right.
You know what I mean? Because it's gonna, if you go by there now, I mean, you have to look hard to see the garage when you drive by there.
No, you don't.
I mean, you have to be on an angle and looking like this while you drive on Chestnut Street. Right, where you put the other one right there, boom, you drive by, everybody's gonna notice it.
Right, and that was the advantage of the other one, with the two building concept, it was nice to put parking behind it too, so.
Yeah.
I think there's some good feedback, I think it's very
Yeah.
important to go to the neighbors and to,
Yeah.
get an idea of,
If it comes out the public hearing, they're gonna have a lot more
Yeah.
for us to consider once
That's
they,
key.
and the other one, I'm just thinking Plan A might affect people the least. Yeah, which is, yeah,
Yeah, probably would.
right, yeah, you know what I mean? I mean,
1 and 2, yeah.
that one there, which he came in the first time. but
Yeah,
he
well, I
said-
think the consensus is, from what I'm looking at, is that concept Plan B, you could probably eliminate, because one, you need a variance to get it, and you're creating your own hardship here, so whether you get the variance or not is, it's always up in the air, and if you have a neighbor fighting with you, you'll never get it. Plus, you lose all the architectural details, so that's not a benefit, so I think, from my opinion, concept B, you could probably lose, and then talk to the neighbors about these other two concepts, and certainly if, my only opposition to the first plan is whether or not you can make it work, aesthetically, and certainly if you can, it's probably the better plan,
And if you're gonna side them both, I mean, if you're gonna side the other one and the new one, and doing the whole big one together, would probably be more economical. Because it's a lot less cutting.
Green space.
Yeah, because I'm saying because if he's, obviously he's not gonna just side the addition, where if he's gonna side his existing now and side the other one, then if he did the whole proposal as it is now, siding, I think, would have a way of making it look, that it's always been there, continuous, and I mean, it'd be a lot less cutting and to do one big, once you build a building, do it all together instead of cut up two pieces. That's what they usually get you when they put the siding down, is making all the cuts. That's where the labor comes in, that's what the expense is.
I mean, process that I'm concerned also getting something that, looks nice, and we're not the expert by any means on, what looks nice and what's to be built, so appreciate the input. Anything else?
I don't think so. What is it? Good luck with it, and thank you. Sure.
Oh, yeah, the letter.
The narrative?
Yeah, the narrative is required is allowed by 11.4.9, that you can eliminate the narrative, and we just wanted to do that. I was looking through it, I've done other projects, and it just seems silly at this point, we don't worry about environmental impact and, traffic, and,
sometimes what we do on the narrative is just basically a paragraph or two.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Just what you're saying.
Appropriate size.
Basically, what we have is 2 units. We want to add 2 units. We're coming before you for a special permit and a site plan review. Parking will be X, Y, and Z to meet this. Like, almost add 2 paragraphs to what you have to one of these now. I mean, add another paragraph.
Okay.
And I mean, we've had narratives have been only 1 paragraph.
Okay, so I don't have to specifically address every single item
No,
there, but just...
because we'll get,
address it.
we'll hit you on the checklist on the site plan and the special permit. We'll get you there on everything else, but the narrative doesn't have to be narrowed to detail. So I wouldn't have a problem with that individually. I'll know what the other board members think.
I wouldn't
That's
either.
fine.
No? I mean,
Not
we
at
know
all.
the concept, like, if it was a bigger plan, we really
Appropriate for
want to
the
know that.
size,
I think by what you're telling us and what you can comprehend in a paragraph, if anybody has any questions on it, by looking at it, they're gonna know you're trying to add 2 units to the site.
Okay, and how about consolidating the plans? You know, show the parking plan all in one plan?
Oh, I think.
1 or 2 plans, whatever we
Yeah,
deem...
usually for
okay.
something this size, we usually don't have much of a problem with that. Usually the bigger ones, the more detail we need, especially with the engineers have to go through them. But something for this size, it's not as bad to
Should
put
be
in.
adequate, yeah.
Yeah.
So whatever we need for clarity.
Okay. Good luck.
Great. Thank
You guys get a heck of a garden there. I think it's the size of one of your units,
I'll
so.
be right back.
Sure. Take your time. Growing season coming up, huh?
First guy.
Moving along on the agenda, the next matter will be the discussion of the adoption of the Mullen Rule Bill under Mass General Laws 39, Section 23D. The Lowell Planning Board will discuss the option of requesting that the City Council adopt the ordinance allowed under Mass General Laws 39, Section 23D. This would allow a board to proceed with a public hearing when one member of the board is absent and allow that board member to later participate in deliberations and voting on that matter, provided that board member review the video or other transcript of the meeting that was missed. Adoption of such a regulation for the planning board requires city council ordinance. So basically, as it stands now, if we have a public hearing and the public hearing is continued to another date, and one board member is not present at all those public hearings, that board member is exempt from voting. So James, is this something that I knew we were going to take up last time, and I knew George was here, but since it was 12:15 and they wanted us out of the building, I knew we decided to put it over to another date. And I knew the maintenance man was sitting over here since 11 o'clock sharp, but since we had so many people here, I knew we kept going and tried to get through. So that was continued from the last meeting to today's. Is this something you want to update us on through Division Plan and Development, or?
Sure, I can try to at least bring it to general discussion. You don't have to make a decision on it tonight. We can wait until maybe I can get George to come to our next meeting to explain it in more detail. But essentially, the Mullen Rule Bill is a new bill that came through state legislature that is essentially doing what you just read. It provides a community with the ability to allow members of boards, in this case the planning board, to basically vote on a public hearing whereby they may have missed one of the previous hearing nights of that public hearing, provided that they consent to, and we can have a form written out that's approved by our law department, provided that member actually consents to having, in some cases it could be listen to the tapes of the meeting or watch the actual taping, the televised taping of the meeting, to prove or to just provide their word that they have basically been brought up to snuff with all of the issues that have been part of the concerns that were addressed at any previous portion of a
Maybe
public
some type
hearing.
of form that the board member would sign saying that he's done
Right.
so, an affidavit or whatever.
Right,
Whatever's
essentially
required by the law department.
That's essentially what it is, yeah. We can work with, well, the DPD, if this is something that the board wants to pursue, to look at further, we can definitely proceed with working with the law department to provide a form of such, basically such a form. From there's obviously benefits and negatives to both sides of the Mullen bill. A lot of it comes down to, and we're still waiting to see how communities deal with this that have adopted this rule. A lot could come down to, let's say, a project was denied, and one of the votes for the denial was from one of those members that consented to not necessarily to basically being caught up on the public hearing, although they did miss a previous meeting. How is that viewed in the eyes of the courts? Obviously, there's no legal precedent as to how the courts will view a denial or an appeal of approvals of an approved case in this sense. So I just wanted to make sure that you are aware of some of the concerns that we have from a legal standpoint from DPD. Obviously, the benefits could be that, let's say, there's a four-member, if there's an absent member of the board and it's only 4 members, and then the next meeting another board member is absent, so you still have 4 members, but 1 member of the board under current rules doesn't allow you to vote on a special permit. That member can sign an affidavit to say that they did watch the hearing of the previous meeting and is up to speed with all of the concerns, and therefore they're allowed to vote on it, thereby allowing the applicant the ability to have a vote on that continued date. So that could be that's a definite benefit of the process. And I don't want the board to make a decision tonight. I don't want them to. I just wanted to bring it to your attention for general discussion to think about it. It's something that we may want to pursue. I'm not sure how it's viewed. I'm not sure if the city council has thought a bit about it yet either. Ultimately, like it says, the board would have to adopt it, and then the city council would have to approve it. So if there's any questions, I can try to answer them. I haven't reviewed the bill word for word myself, but I do know the general gist of the bill.
Yeah, I think a couple of questions that would just jump out would be what the law department feels about it. You know?
Right, that's a very
I think
good.
one of the things is now that we have the Mass General Law and the law in this section, at least we can pull it up and read it and get some concept of what we feel. But I think obviously, before I think we vote in favor, and I think the city council just would say, you know, what's the legal ramifications, as you pointed out, and what does the city council feel about the matter?
Right.
One advantage we do have here, at least in the city, is we are live when we go on, and if any member couldn't make it, who was sick or ill for any reason, who's happened to be at home, they could watch it live. Or at least I know it's we have it taped twice a week, and also we can go to the library.
Yep, the library does keep a copy of all the tapings.
Yeah,
it's
so
usually
we can
there
go right to the
within 3
library and
days
watch
of the
it.
meeting.
So, I mean, at least we have access to it. Oh, yeah. Yeah, and
that's new from when we started taping here.
You can view it from some computers too.
You can view it
My daughter
online
said
at
not mine, but most of the time we
ltc.org.
can't.
There is a streaming video that's usually updated within a week of the meeting that was.
Yeah, you can
They
get it on
have
the
planning
computer.
board meetings, city council meetings. So obviously there's avenues by which,
So
in
we'd
our
have access
case,
to watching it.
this planning board would have access to watch those.
I
And
think it would be more beneficial. I mean, listening to the tape would be one thing, reading the minutes would be another thing, but viewing it live, I think, has more
Right.
impact. I mean, when you see the people up here discussing it.
Right.
You know, it's,
I-
you know,
Right.
they say viewing it, I think you get more of the flavor of what the applicant and, you know, the pros and the cons.
Right.
You know, but I mean, at least we have that benefit. I mean, with the library right behind us, it's actually nice to go down and watch it there. Like, say, some computer access, you can download it and watch it right from your home.
I agree, that's right.
So we have a benefit there, at least in Lowell.
Exactly.
But
That is the
communication-
benefit of Lowell, and a lot of communities do televise their planning board meetings and do have those taped. We did do a survey. I don't have the results now of which communities have already adopted this rule, and I'd be intrigued to see over the next couple months or so how they've used this rule and what's happened from that. My inkling is in just preliminary discussions with the law department and just internally in DPD, the primary concerns from a legal standpoint would be just what I mentioned earlier, is that if there is an appeal to an approval or a denial or what have you, and one of the votes or a couple of the votes, maybe even in some cases, were made and this Mullen rule was applied, how would the courts react to that? And I think that's the biggest, from what I understand, is one of the biggest concerns with the adoption of this bill.
No one can really give us that answer until precedent is set.
Right.
I mean, I know some cities and towns take their position, sit back and wait and see what somebody else did, then find out by their trial and error what works and what doesn't work.
Right.
That's
I mean-
a good practical way.
I mean,
to
some
do
do,
it.
some, you know, I
Right.
mean, obviously, some take initiative to go forward with it.
Right. At the
And
same
some of those
time,
communities, some of those cities are smaller too, that have
Right.
less development, less concerns.
Right, which
less issues than we face.
Which is why it may be beneficial for us to try out this rule and see where it goes. The other benefit of a rule like this one is that we have a 5-member board with no alternates. Some communities and some boards, even within Lowell, have alternates to the board, whereby if there's an absent member, that alternate can sit on, and you can have a full 5-member board. With a 5-member board, we've experienced this just in the last year, whereby we were down a member for a while because we were waiting for an appointee, and whereby some members of the board were unable to make meetings. And for special permit projects, that's definitely a tough position for an applicant and the board to be in. So having the ability to go forward with a public hearing, maybe continuing it until you have a full 5-member board, but still allowing the public hearing to go forward, thereby allowing community concerns to be brought forward. I mean, a couple of meetings ago, we had several concerns from the community about continuing without actually opening the public hearing. With the adoption of this, you may be able to open the public hearing, allow for commentary from the applicant, from those in favor, from those against, and then continue to the next meeting, thereby allowing a full board to vote on the subject. So obviously, this could be a very big benefit for our case. But again,
on those issues, I believe even under our guidelines, it calls for anywhere from board members to be, we can have as little as 5 and as many as 9.
under state statute, yes, we can have a larger board. We can
So
have
that's up to
anywhere from 5 to 9.
And I know when we only had the 4 members, that was when our chairman resigned, and the city council, one member requested that they don't appoint a new board member. So I know it was no fault of this board that we didn't have that 5th board member, because that was requested of the council that no one be appointed until a new manager came on board. So during that time period, and I know from the tenure that I've been here, the attendance of this board is excellent. I know that if somebody does not make it to one of the meetings here, it's a very good, understandable reason. So I know that doesn't reflect upon us not appearing at the meetings, but I know if, people who come here have been here over a period of time can tell you that we're here on a regular basis. I mean, so,
Yeah.
but I know, so usually, I mean, unless it's, when, like we had Mr. Zarul, he retired, so we had a step down period, but that was, we did have that hardship for a 6-month period because we never new board members appointed. But usually in the past, we haven't had a problem of that nature due to the fact of the excellent attendance of the board, so. But, anybody else have any questions? Joe, have any concerns about it, or do you know anything about it from other neighbors?
Just a comment. I think it's a good idea, basically. We run into the problem with continuances when a member might be absent. I think this gives us an opportunity to open the hearing, to have the discussion, and if we want to go forward on a vote with 4 members, we can. But if the matter gets continued to another date, and the member that was missing is able to come to the next meeting, they can participate, they can ask the questions they need to ask, and provided they've seen the tape of what went on previously to bring them up to speed, I think it's only a good thing that, we get full participation of the board, so I think it's generally a good idea.
Any other board members have any questions about it?
I agree with that.
Sure.
I think the video makes a difference, right? As you were saying, that reading the minutes doesn't really give you a good understanding of what happened at a public hearing, but the ability to view the videotape or the DVD, I guess, makes all the difference. And given our small numbers here, I think we probably wouldn't need it very often, but in the event that we did, I think it would be good to have in our back pocket.
Yeah. I think any comments from the law department, like I said, would be helpful to let us know what their feelings are. I mean, so we can take this under advisement at this point in time if nobody has any objections, and maybe if we get some feeling from the law department what they feel is appropriate, and maybe if George has something, we can put on an agenda some night when we don't have a large agenda.
Certainly. I can definitely work with the law department on just getting their viewpoints on this bill and get George's viewpoints on this bill. And I just wanted to quickly point out that I think you mentioned the attendance of this board is definitely good, and I think that's one of the benefits to this board, which is why this bill, though we may, if it does get adopted, may not be enacted upon too much by this board, because I think you guys are very dedicated, and I think that's a very large benefit of this board. And I know when you do know if you're going to be absent, you tend to know that several months in advance, which allows us to change a meeting or at least announce to everybody that there won't be a full board that night, or which I think is a benefit of this board. But I will definitely work with the law department on getting their reading on this Mullen rule, and also with George, just to provide you with a little bit more background on how the board may want to pursue this in the future.
Okay, thank you. Okay, moving along under old business. Any board members have any old business, any concerns at this time? Okay. Other business, we have notices in abutting towns. We have a couple in there from some of the surrounding towns. Drake, I believe, had a couple of comments in there. Tewksbury had one. I didn't see any major concerns. Any of the board members have any concerns with the notices from other towns?
I have none. I make a motion to place these on file, Mr. Chairman.
Motion's made. Anybody want to second that?
Second.
Motion made and second. All in favor, say aye.
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 Anything on the general correspondences?
Just a letter from the mayor.
I don't know if we, do we pull this up at one time? This time, James, the letter we got in regards to the public hearing that we had in regards to the zoning on
Oh, yeah.
Bridge Street, you have a letter in the packet here, which was basically encompassed what we had to say, and I know as a result of our recommendation, this goes to the city council, and whenever they set up for their public hearing, that got to the zoning change.
Correct, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just wanted to provide you with a copy of that, which is, I tried to summarize as best I could and in as much detail as I could the board's vote or recommendation in this case. I've sent that to the council. I'm not exactly sure when a public hearing has been scheduled for, if it has been scheduled for anything, for any time, and as soon as I know, I'm sure you'll know as well.
Okay.
And I'll try to let you know.
Any board members have any questions on the communication to the council? Nope. Okay. At this point in time, before I go to ZBAs, on the general correspondences, since we had the issue before us tonight in regards to an appeal, I was wondering if we could just send a letter to the city solicitor to have them be in contact with us in regards to any appeals that are pending before the board. I know that we have one pending, and we had a new filing against us just recently on the one up on Middlesex Street, which would, one on the bottom of Dingwell Street, that I know we've been served on, so that's a new appeal coming up. So, and I know we have another one that's pending under appeal now, which is the Roger Street project. I'd like if possibly the city solicitor could keep us informed of what's going on those appeals, and since we are named as defendants in the matter, I think communication with this board should be brought to our attention, at least let us know who the assistant city solicitor is, and at least communication with us to think if any of our input into those appeal process could be helpful in making a rendering decision from the court in regards to those appeals. So if you could just send a little letter to them if you could?
Certainly, I will, yep.
Okay. The only other question I had is, but I'll get to that after we do the ZBA, it's just communication. So at this point in time, I'll move on to the zoning board of appeals matters. I believe we have 3 matters coming up, and this is for the zoning board of appeals hearing, which is scheduled for January 22nd, 2007 at 6:30 p.m. And these matters just come before us as a recommendation to the zoning board of appeals. And the first one is Teresa Filio, 99 Rosemount Street. This is a repetitive petition for traditional single-family. Repetitive petition to divide into 3 lots and construct 2 single-family homes in the floodplain overlay district. So basically, there's a house up there now, which is in the middle of the lot, and she's proposing to put 2 new houses there, one to the right and one to the left. One of the questions I have when I went up and looked at it is, usually on the application, we get a copy of the previous time it was sent to the Board of Appeals and the date that they denied it in the past. I know usually we get that in the copy. I don't see it this time.
That's right.
I don't know if she didn't submit it, or...
There's no history.
Did you get that, Jim, or we just...
No, you have pretty much what I
Okay,
have.
because usually, on the application, it says, you have been before the board before, you have been denied or granted, and it says
Right.
yes or no, and it basically, and a lot of times, I know, we end up getting a copy of what the Board of Appeals did. In this case, I was looking for it, I didn't know if it was just, it wasn't submitted, or maybe it wasn't in my packet, but I know the main concern is for a repetitive petition, so obviously that tells me that they were denied once before, either that or they were allowed in the time lapsed, one or the other, to bring it back as repetitive.
Mr. Chairman, if I may, I was at the zoning board of appeals when this was denied. They,
You know when it was, Jerry, out of curiosity, how long ago?
yeah, well, they were pie-shaped. They met the square foot requirement.
Yeah, because it looks pretty big up there.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
But the other house is right in the middle.
Pretty open.
And there's plenty of room to the right and plenty to the left.
So it met all the square footage, they had 10,000 square foot lots, but they were pie-shaped lots. And the board was uncomfortable with the way they were divided. If people start putting privacy fences up, it was really gonna, very unattractive. But they denied it.
Yeah, because by looking at it, going up and looking at the site, it's kind of hard to figure out what the really, I mean,
Yeah.
it just says, you know, the floodplain. So
Unfortunately, you're gonna have homes with flow-through foundations.
Right. That's when they have to put the furnaces on the ceiling.
Yeah,
done it
exactly.
before.
I mean, they'll sustain the flood, but visually, with the existing home that wasn't built, that wasn't required to be built under the standards of, that are now required in a
Right, in the floodplain,
floodplain,
right.
they're gonna stick out like a sore thumb.
Yeah, yeah.
And it's my thought on that.
Because there's plenty of land up there, there's no doubt.
Oh, yeah, well, that was the area that flooded in the spring. That was
Right.
Oh,
right in
yeah,
the heart of
badly,
it.
that whole
Right
area
in the
there.
heart of it.
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
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 So after that parking lot behind you, Lowell, over to the left there, yep.
Yeah.
Right down out there off New York Street. But yeah,
Exactly.
Yep. Any questions?
I'm going to recuse myself on this matter, Mr. Chairman. I'm not directly involved in this petition, but I know the petitioner, so, and yeah, I see I signed the deed, so.
Yeah, I didn't notice that.
I'll back out.
Could have
Thank you.
fooled me, Joe. Oh, yeah. I never noticed that.
I noticed, I just think, trying to see how old it was. A few years.
Don't we need a little more? No, I guess we don't.
The only concern I have is that, you know, obviously, without seeing a plan, end up being in a flood zone, and what happened last year. I make a motion to deny.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
So there's 4 against and 1 abstention. Okay? Moving along, the next matter. The next matter is Michelle Jordan at 142 Myrtle Street. Petition to construct an addition to existing single-family with insufficient side and rear yard setbacks. This is right up off the Methuen Street and 10th Street.
Right on the,
Yeah.
almost on the corner.
Yeah, it's actually one house in from the corner, yep.
Right.
It's a nice house, it's yellow with green shutters, and it sets back, and basically what she wants to do is put a new proposal to the left of the back deck. Unfortunately, she's,
Side yard.
yeah, she's minus the minimum lot size, she's minus the dwelling unit size, she is minus the front yard, they're minus both side yards, and minus the rear yard, and the rear yard slopes down, and there's a fence in the back. I mean, it's a good house, a good-sized house now as it stands, and they want to add another addition in the back. I mean, it's a 2-story home now, 2-story, and then, so to add another addition on a good-sized home that's already up there now.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to deny. There's not enough, the lot is too small for expansion.
Motion's made, anybody want to second that motion?
And second the motion, Mr. Chairman.
Motion's made and seconded, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay. Chair votes yes, the motion to deny carries 5-0.
Just a comment on that, and I support the motion to deny, but in terms of the encroachments, it's not the sideline that would bother me, but the rear yard requirement. She's got 14 showing there, and the requirement is 20. She would again be creating her own hardship in this situation, so
I
she could.
think so, yeah.
She could limit that proposed addition by 6 feet and meet that rear yard requirement. I'd be in favor of.
You know, actually, right now, where that proposed addition is,
With a deck is.
there's a deck right there.
Yep, yep.
Right.
And you can see it better
So
if you go on the
they're
street
not-
behind it and look
Yeah,
back.
so that's a good point. If
Yeah.
you could just
Because
bring
the
the
size-
size of that down, then it
because-
would work, yeah.
And I mean, the concern with the dimensions, she's already on that lot and already has the side yard and the front yard, all that exists now.
Right,
So,
so you're not,
I mean, so the only thing she would be increasing would be the rear. And if she pulled that back a little bit, she could make a smaller unit. She says it's for an elderly person, but I think the house is a good size, and she make it a little smaller and still accomplish her goal.
She could
yeah,
go
that's
20 by
feet,
14
you know, you
and
could
fit
go,
it in
and
there.
that would be a good-sized room.
20 by 14 would fit.
So,
Right, but it doesn't work.
Because like I say, the side yards and the front yards are all there now.
Right.
But, so she's
Just
great
that
and
rear
even
yard,
more
that's
of
a
it.
good point, yeah.
Of a hardship. Okay, so moving along, we have, Hong Nugent, for the Faux 88 Restaurant, special permit. This was 1270 Westford Street, which is a regional retail, to add new sign panels to existing freestanding sign and to allow off-street parking for newly expanded restaurant.
Got a letter here, too.
Yeah. Problem I had with this is, I mean, this is, you go out Westford Street, it goes, you know, you go past the old dumper there, and it's right before the Chelmsford line. I went up there, and I looked around, and I sat in the parking lot, and I went across the street, and I came back about 3 or 4 times. I tried to find 1299 Westford Street, where they're gonna give the 10 parking spots. I can't find it. Couldn't find it. Across the street is Technology Park, which is all fenced in.
Yeah.
Past this project, you hit Parkhurst Street, which is in Chelmsford.
And McDonald's.
The Exxon Street across the street, which I showed a picture of, I don't have a problem with the signs, because they're there now. But where the Exxon Street is, it's hard to see, but in front of the Exxon, you can see that pole where that white car is. That's the sign that says Lowell and Chelmsford. So knowing that odd numbers on one side and even numbers on the other side of the street, if there's people on 1270, then obviously the parking has to be across the street. So therefore, they're gonna have to go across Westford Street to park 10 cars. The hours of operation up there, as they said on their sign on their front door, are 11 a.m. to 10 o'clock at night. So you're gonna be walking across Westford Street after 10 o'clock at night to find your 10 parking spot. If you go into that gas station, and I drove on that gas station 3 times, and that had no number on it. There's the restaurant, there's the building, 3 pumps on one side, 3 pumps on the other side, car wash in the back. And then to the left, you have Bank of America, where you can, you can go in for the ATM. And also on the left, actually, if you're looking at the right, where that bank is, they have drop-off for rental cars. So I know there's parking there, and the question I have is, I don't know where to meet the 10 parking spots, and there's a letter here saying that the gentleman is willing to give 10 parking spaces on 1299 Westford Street. So the question I have is, if they were close by and easy to get to, I wouldn't have much of a problem with it. The sign, he's gonna change the sign. The sign's existing up there. He shows how he's gonna replace the sign. I don't have much problem with the sign. The rest of the sign's gonna stay, he's just gonna change some of the wording on it. But I think trying to cross Westford Street, 10 o'clock at night, to get to the parking spaces where I don't know where they are, that's my concern. If they were close by on the same side of the street, or next building over, they go before there's a laundromat, but all those numbers run on the even side where the 1299 is odd across the street somewhere. So.
According to the assessors map, they show it 1299 as being across the far corner of that lot.
Whereabouts is it? Yeah.
Well, here's the lot, and then
Yeah.
it shows that as being 1299.
Okay, so unless that's past the, yes. So whether that is, I don't know. Drum Hill Road, look at this Parker, so it's over here. So 1299 would have to be past the gas station, right? You think? By looking at the view picture, Joe?
Right.
See, I don't know, wait a minute. See, when you go past here,
Yeah.
to the left here is Parkhurst
Yeah.
Street. So
Yeah.
where do you think it would be, over here?
It would have to be, because Drum Hill Road, here's the town line.
Right, but that sign is right there, yeah. And I'm not sure how the line runs. Parkhurst starts here and it goes
Right.
down here, and you have,
So
court 1, 2, and 3
According to this, it's gotta be back here somewhere.
by the Exxon station.
Yeah.
That's what I was guessing. And then past the Exxon, you see McDonald's, and then past there, and that appears to me, I think it's Chelmsford, but
Right.
But I think it's still across the street. There's no signalization for, pedestrians to get across there. There's a light there in front of the, you see where the Exxon is? There's a light there.
Right
I
there
tell
at
you,
the intersection, yeah.
and that's a busy light, because what it is on that light, when it opens up, it's people coming out of Parkhurst, and there's also people coming out of, across by the Exxon.
I
It's a
think they
tight
need to
light.
show us a plan,
So I didn't think the off-street parking,
site plan,
I think-
where that is.
the off-street parking is tough to get to.
Unless it's in the Exxon station.
Yeah, that's what I thought it might have been.
It's gotta
Yeah, maybe
be in, there's a
part of
car wash behind
Right.
there, it's a parking behind, maybe
Yeah,
it's letting them
that's
do
what I
some
thought it would be.
things.
But I think you still have to cross Westford Street to get to, if it's in the Exxon. Because if, it's hard to see that white sign, because even that sign, you can barely read the letterman on it, it's up there in daylight. For those reasons, I'll make a motion that we deny due to the fact that to walk across Westwood Street, there's no pedestrian light there to push a button. And as we all know, that's a very busy street up there, especially at night. I mean, just driving, passing the site and turning around and coming back and passing the site a couple of times was difficult in the car. And I know there's no sidewalk on either part of Westwood Street there. When you go across the Technology Drive, it's just that railing. And I even drove in around Technology Drive in the back of that to look and think, is there anything back there?
I'll second your motion,
Okay.
Mr. Chairman.
All in favor?
Aye.
Chair votes, yes, the motion carries 5-0. The only other thing that came to mind is, James, our next two meetings is what, February? I have the thing, the next one is do the dates with us?
I believe the next meeting is February 5th,
Okay.
and then it's actually the third Thursday of the month,
Okay.
which I believe is, I want to say it's the 18th, but I'm not exactly sure.
The only question I had is that,
On the 18th?
the one in February, the next one is February 5th, which is that Monday. And then I think on the 18th, that's the week of February school vacation. I didn't know if anybody had a problem making that meeting, if it did.
Oh, yeah, it is school
If anybody if we could change that date, I don't know if it affects anybody, if anybody has young children.
Thursday, the 22nd, Washington's
So
birthday.
I was thinking of that, and also what reminded me tonight was the adoption of the Mullen Rule, whether if somebody had plans to be somewhere with their children that week. So if we did, we could change the meeting if we had to. I just thought I'd bring up for discussion. I don't know if anybody has plans for that far out in advance, but I think if we could, that would be over a month away. We could maybe change that meeting if need be. Anybody have any problem with making that meeting, or did they know of it?
I don't have a problem with that meeting.
Okay.
We're going away late in the week.
Jerry, you
so.
with me? Okay.
I don't have any.
Okay, all right, I just wanted to bring that up, because I did notice when I was checking my calendar the other day when I was writing them in. Okay,
For clarification, Mr. Chairman, we're keeping the schedule as is?
yeah.
Okay.
I just wanted to see if since it was school vacation week and it was on another
Right.
Thursday, if anybody had any questions with it, I want to address it sooner instead of later.
Right.
So,
Okay.
all right, any other concerns from board members? I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So move.
Second? Anybody? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Thank you very much. Good night, thank you.
Thank you.